Chapter 99 Plan. Chapter 99 Plan. Yu Zhong saw Chen Zhiguang drooling at the mouth, and he plainly said, "Come over and eat." "Thank you, brother Yu. Thank you, brother Yu." Chen Zhiguang immediately shouted, expressing thanks and grabbing food at the same time, gobbling up huge chunks. Seeing Chen Zhiguang wolf down food, De Guzzi muttered, "He's like a hungry ghost." Facing De Guzzi's ridicule, Chen Zhiguang continued on like he didn't hear, eating like a hungry ghost. After 4 bowls of food, he could no longer endure, finally setting down his chopsticks. After eating and drinking his full, Chen Zhiguang finally turned to Yu Zhong and worriedly said, "Brother Yu, Ice King Zhang Yun is strong and very vindictive. You offended him today, and he will certainly not let you go. You need to be more careful." Yu Zhong simply said, "I know. Then I'll go. You had better rest well today." Finished speaking, Chen Zhiguang left the place. Night fell. Apart from the special region, a few villas, and some lamps, the remaining regions were enshrouded by darkness, a deathly loneliness. A dark figure moved through the darkness like a fish. It was as if the figure and the darkness blended into one. The dark figure quickly moved in front of the area where Yu Zhong's group was staying. He moved on the ground on all 4s like a lizard. He moved like something inhuman, climbing up the wall without a sound, all the way to Yu Zhong's window. The black figure carefully extended his head and looked into the window of Yu Zhong's residence. His eyes carefully searched, and he was able to see a trace of green light. It was a moonless night, and in addition, the surrounding area didn't have a trace of light. The people in the room could look out the window and not be able to discover the black image on the window. "Did you look enough?" Just when the black figure was looking into the window, Yu Zhong immediately appeared in front of the window and stared at the black figure, coldly speaking. The black figure's eyes flashed with fright. He immediately pulled out a gun and aimed at Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong's eyes flashed a cold light. His fist waved out. Like rapid thunder, a high-speed explosion burst on the black figure's oval face. The black figure was sent flying in an explosion from the wall like an artillery shell. Pounding onto the ground, he spit out a large mouthful of blood, dying after struggling a moment. Matai relied on night vision ability and climbing ability. When assassinating others in the darkness of night, he extremely rarely failed. This time running into Yu Zhong, he was struck down without Yu Zhong even bringing abilities into play. Although Matai had the ability to climb up a wall, he didn't have the ability to survive a 5-story fall. Yu Zhong walked out the building and looked at Matai's corpse. His brows slightly wrinkled. Assassination? Don't tell me it is the Ice King Association? That was really fast. "Brother, what matter is this?" Lu Wen also came out of the building over to Yu Zhong's side. She asked a little scared, seeing Matai's corpse. Guang also walked over to Yu Zhong's side using her two eyes that could speak words to stare at Yu Zhong. Just now in the house, Yu Zhong had made Lu Wen and Guang leave the room for their own safety. This made them feel uneasy. Yu Zhong simply said, "It's nothing. I estimate it is an assassination from the Ice King Association." Lu Wen also brought some people wearing gloves, and they searched Matai's body. They grabbed 2 pieces of equipment and handed them over to Yu Zhong. "Captain Yu, this is the assassin's equipment. Level 2 item, Speed Dagger. Increases agility by 5 when held in hand." In addition to the Speed Dagger, Matai also had God and Devil World shoes. Yu Zhong only wanted the Speed Dagger. He said, "Lu Yin, I'm giving you these boots." Lu Yin excitedly said, "Thank you, Captain Yu." The God and Devil World system dropped various types of equipment that could increase the ability of people. Yu Zhong's subordinates all knew this. But only by using God and Devil World skills and equipment against mutated beasts and zombies could these items drop. Because of this, there aren't many God and Devil World items. Each one is extremely precious. Lu Yin was able to receive a pair of God and Devil World shoes, and he became much stronger. Lu Yin put Matai's corpse into a bag and tossed it into a faraway pond. After everything was settled, Yu Zhong ordered White Bones to stand guard, and then he called Lu Wen and Guang back into the building to rest. Early in the morning at 4 a.m., inside his house, Zhao Xiong looked at his watch and frowned. He slowly thought, failed? It seems that person named Yu Zhong is much more tough than we imagined. When Matai assassinated others, he could quickly achieve success. Not returning at this time obviously means his assassination failed. The majority of people who offended the Ice King Association were all killed at Matai's hands. Very few could escape the assassination of Matai in the darkness of night. Looks like I need to implement the second plan. The next day in the early morning, Yu Zhong's group had just finished eating breakfast. 3 people wearing police uniforms came over. A middle-aged policeman came over to Yu Zhong's group and coldly stated, "Who is Yu Zhong?" Yu Zhong looked at the policeman and simply said, "I am." The middle-aged policeman said with a look of righteousness, "Come with me right now. You are suspected of publicly killing people in the base. If you resist, we have the authority to shoot you to death right here." Yu Zhong's brow wrinkled. "I didn't kill anyone? Yesterday, I only taught those people a lesson. Go to Phoenix Street and investigate, and then you'll know." Another policeman's brows wrinkled. He pulled out the gun at his waist. Then he pointed it and scolded at Yu Zhong. "The level of bullshit is too high. Sincerely come along with us. Be careful. If you speak fucking bullshit again, the boss will execute you." Yu Zhong's eyes flashed a cold light, and he immediately started the art of fear skill. In a brief moment, the policeman's thoughts entered into a world full of fear and terror. In that world, 10 corpses were taking bites out of his flesh. "Oh, save me. Don't bite. Save me." The policeman emitted a painful emit. Eyes written with fear, he kneeled on the ground. "What did you do?" The middle-aged policeman and the other shouted. They all wanted to pull out their guns. Standing at Yu Zhong's side, White Bones moved forward like an arrow. A fist exploded on the middle-aged policeman's face, sending him flying. Then White Bones sent a kick to another policeman's stomach, sending him flying several meters, holding his stomach struggling endlessly. Chapter 100, Series of Traps. Chapter 100, Series of Traps. The middle-aged policeman stood up with a face full of blood. He said to Yu Zhong in a stern voice, "Yu Zhong, you are assaulting the police. You are making an enemy of the Communist Party and the government. If you don't stop your savage act, you will be shot to death." Yu Zhong didn't take another look at the middle-aged policeman. He shouted to the policeman who first intensified the conflict by drawing his gun, "Who made you come here? Speak honestly, and you may come back from the underworld." Ice King Association's Zhao Xiong. He came and reported a case. He said 8 men of the Ice King Association died, and you killed them. He made us come and grab you. After grabbing you, we were to confiscate your weapons and kill you in jail. We were going to get 50 kilograms of food stamps and a beautiful woman after finishing the job. The man's eyes were written with terror, shrouded in the art of fear. Kneeling on the ground, he yelled everything that occurred behind the scenes. Under the shroud of art of fear, the policeman's thoughts were brought to another world. 10 zombies, rotten zombies, eyes bulged, covered everywhere in boils. They continued eating his body. The art of fear skill wasn't something ordinary people could endure. "Pan Zhong, what are you saying?" The middle-aged policeman roared like a furious lion upon seeing his colleague spill the beans. Yu Zhong coldly looked down upon the 3 policemen, and he ordered a command to Lu Yin, "Truly ugly. You are considered policemen? You really give this job a bad name. Lu Yin, remove their guns and give them a slap." After his age, the majority of original policemen were infected, becoming zombies. Very few of the policemen in Longhai City Survivor Base were policemen before ZH. The rest of the policemen are temporary recruits. This made the police force become a mix of dragons and snakes, utterly corrupt. Lu Yin sneered. He brought 2 men and removed the 3 police officers' guns. Then he grabbed them up by the hair, and he ruthlessly slapped their faces until they swelled up. The other survivors in the slum took joy in the misfortune of the 3 policemen. They didn't have a favorable impression of these guys who liked to show off their little bit of strength in front of ordinary people. Yu Zhong looked at the 3 policemen who had been slapped swollen and coldly said, "Scram! Don't let me see you again." Everyone, take cover! Suddenly, Zhong felt an absolutely horrifying premonition. He immediately shouted. His image flashed, quickly hiding behind a house. Almost as soon as Zhong left his original position, a gun made a sound like thunder crashing, and bullet landed where he was standing. Lu Wan, Guiyu, and Lu Yan already sought cover at Zhong's command. Hearing the gunfire, the surrounding onlookers became a chaotic circle. They fearfully fled in all directions. In the chaos, an ordinary-appearing person wearing tattered and soiled clothes approached the three policemen. He moved 3 times faster than an ordinary person, and he shot the heads of the 3 policemen at point-blank range. Without any chance to defend, the 3 policemen lost their lives in a bloodbath. Their eyes were full of disbelief as they fell to the ground. They never thought they would suddenly be shot. What a fierce method! Zhong watched the 3 policemen collapse to the ground, and his eyes flashed a cold light. In order to frame him, the Ice King Association suddenly murdered 3 policemen in public. It was an extreme level of lawlessness. Zhong initiated his combined body defense skill, and white bones condensed into a bone armor. Zhong rushed like electricity out from his cover towards the Ice King Association Evolver. The agility-type evolver of the Ice King Association saw Zhong rushing towards him in bone armor. He immediately turned and ran from Zhong. He already used a skill in order to assassinate those 3 policemen. He didn't have enough stamina to use a second skill. While rushing, Zhong suddenly felt danger. He immediately started to move in a zigzag pattern towards where the agility evolver was moving. So fast, far away on the roof of a building, a sniper was holding a sniper rifle. The sniper had no way to lock onto the high-speed image of Zhong. After a few seconds, Zhong already cut down the distance between him and the Ice King Association Evolver. Arriving behind the body of the agility-type Evolver, Yu extended a hand to grab onto the Evolver's body. The Evolver immediately rolled, fished out a Type 54 pistol, and fired successive shots at Zhong. Zhong's body slightly leaned. Zhong maneuvered behind the agility Evolver in the split second he aimed his gun. Using a knife hand, he chopped into the Evolver's neck, causing him to faint. A bullet sound thundered just as Zhong moved to grab the Evolver. A sniper bullet passed through the Evolver's head, splashing blood everywhere. Zhong looked at a distant location. Relying on his perceived danger skill, he could sense the sniper had already withdrew from his location after assassinating the Ice King Association Evolver. So skillful, Zhong quickly rushed back to the residential area after grabbing the Evolver's equipment. As soon as he returned to their place, Zhong distributed to everyone the prepared ammunition and guns from his storage ring. He commanded in a deep voice, "Immediately prepare to withdraw. If our path is blocked, use force. Completely destroy everything." The 3 policemen already passed death's door. Dead men cannot tell tales. Due to the influence of the Ice King Association at Longhai City, they would quickly be surrounded by the military and police. Staying here is a road to death. With Zhong's power and equipment, there was hope he could escape a military encirclement, but he was afraid the other people would all be left behind in Longhai City. If Zhong surrendered, the lives of his group wouldn't be in their own control. Their lives would be completely in the hands of others. Receiving Zhong's orders, everyone quickly grabbed Type 79 machine guns and rushed after Zhong. Seeing Zhong's group carrying Type 79 assault rifles traveling along the road, everyone withdrew one by one and hid in their houses. They only peeped from the crack in the door at Zhong's group. Chapter 101. Breaking Through the Base. Chapter 101. Breaking Through the Base. The distance between the place Zhong's group lived and the entrance to the base wasn't far. Zhong took the lead wearing bone armor, charging to the base's entrance. "Who are you? Stop. Otherwise, we will open fire." The 4 soldiers standing guard at the entrance shouted at Zhong. The soldiers standing guard had the Chinese-produced Type 89-12, 7mm caliber machine guns that could pierce armored cars. Zhong sped along the road. As he was approaching the soldiers, his speed, which was 4 times faster than an ordinary person, shot forward like an arrow moving in a zigzag pattern. The 4 soldiers guarding the entrance immediately grabbed their Type 03 automatic rifles and spread fire at Zhong. Those soldiers weren't worthy of the name, having never gone through strict training. Even though Zhong was moving high speed, there were still several bullets that hit his body. Immediately, the bullets were sent flying by the bone armor. Ordinary bullets couldn't pierce through the current white bones armor, which had been only the strengthened several times. Only the 12.7mm rounds could pierce through Zhong's bone armor. Monster! The soldiers' eyes flashed with fright, seeing bullets had no use against Zhong. Knives and bullets were inferior to revolvers. This was their first time seeing one. Never before had they seen a monster that couldn't be stopped by bullets. Zhong arrived before the 4 soldiers in the space of several breaths. He used his hand to chop at the 4 soldiers, knocking them unconscious. After taking care of the 4 soldiers, he rushed up the stairs towards the top of the city walls. There were 2 Type 89 12.7mm heavy machine guns fixed on the walls. They could both threaten Zhong's life. In a few moments, Zhong appeared on the city wall. Like an arrow, he appeared at the sides of the 2 heavy machine gun operators. The 2 were knocked unconscious with 2 hand chops. After entrance had been cleared, Liu Yin brought people to quickly secure the vicinity. He took the 2 Type 89 heavy machine guns and placed them on a large truck. He also seized an armed jeep near the entrance of the base. Liu Yin pointed at the 6 soldiers knocked unconscious by Zhong. Captain Yu, what do you want us to do with these people? Zhong looked at the 6 soldiers and said in a low voice, tie them up tightly and toss them in the truck. Prepare to leave immediately. Longhai City Base was nearly a military post. It would be very hard to match these opponents with military characteristics. Don't even mention the opposition recovered a military base possessing modern light and heavy weapons. Under the orders of Zhong, Liu Yin made people quickly gather various supplies and load them on the truck. They took a Dongfeng truck, an armed jeep, and 2 Hummers, and they madly sped far away from the base entrance. Zhong sat on the armed jeep and stared at the ever-distant Longhai City survivor base. In his mind, he coldly thought, Ice King Association. I will remember this. It seems everything tested my ability. This event with the Ice King Association at Longhai City and everything he saw at Longhai City caused a great change in Zhong's thinking. It cut off his last trace of trust in the government. Not long after Zhong's group left Longhai City, 2 Type 92 infantry fighting vehicles, IFV, suddenly appeared on the highway. Seeing the 2 Type 92 IFVs appear, everyone's hearts became ice cold. On the Type 92 IFVs were ZPT-90 25mm round cannons that could easily tear apart the armor of their vehicles. Zhong shouted to Wang Shuang, don't panic. They don't necessarily know we are fleeing from the base. Just pass by. Wang Shuang's body slightly shivered. He just kept driving by according to Zhong's plan. Stop the vehicle. As 2 vehicles were passing, a voice broadcasted from an IFV. Stop the vehicle, Zhong said to Wang Shuang. Wang Shuang let off the gas, and he immediately stopped the vehicle. The armored jeep stopped, and the following vehicles all stopped behind. Wearing a full set of military clothes, Zhong and Wang Shuang got out of the vehicle. Everyone else got out of the vehicles one by one. A young officer got out of the IFV and came over to the side of Zhong's group. The young officer looked at Zhong. His brows wrinkled, and he asked, I'm the 3rd Company's 2nd Platoon leader Su Jigang. Which unit do you belong to? Zhong's eyes flashed a cold light, and he started the skill Shadow Step. His level of speed rose sharply, and he strode forward immediately, overcoming Su Jigang. A knife hand chopped Su Jigang on the neck, causing him to knock unconscious. Zhong entered within 10 meters of an IFV in the moment that Su Jigang was collapsing, and he immediately started the skill Art of Fear in the blink of an eye. In an instant, an enormous baleful aura and spiritual power shrouded the area within 10 meters. The soldiers in the IFV had no way to resist Yu Zhong's sneak attack. On the other side, White Bones, who was disguised as a person, grabbed its axe. Moving at the speed of 3 times a normal person, it crazily rushed in a zigzag pattern towards the second IFV. The second IFV stopped. The light and heavy firepower poured out like a torrent toward White Bones. Artillery and machine gun fire formed a frantic bullet screen that could easily tear apart a light armored vehicle. Even though White Bones did its best to evade, it was still hit by some machine gun fire. The machine gun fire had no effect on White Bones' body, only leaving a small impression, but the 25mm rounds could blow a hole in its body. In the space of a few short breaths, White Bones' chest and right arm were hit by the heavy rounds. It rolled nearby to the side of the road. This let it not be completely destroyed. Taking advantage of White Bones drawing the firepower, Yu Zhong moved at peak speed like a demon. He already arrived at within 10 meters of the second IFV after a couple leaps, and he started the art of fear skill. The baleful aura of the art of fear skill invaded the IFV in a moment. It made all the soldiers in the IFV so afraid that they passed out. Chapter 102. Infantry Fighting Vehicle, IFV. Chapter 102. Infantry Fighting Vehicle, IFV. Seeing the 2 IFVs simultaneously cease fire, Yu Zhong relaxed his breath. The ZPT-90 25mm cannon was mighty. Yu Zhong's motorcade would have few survivors left if the IFV fully opened fire. Yu Zhong used sneak attack tactics. Using his evolver strength and items, as well as the art of fear skill, he was able to seize the 2 IFVs without firing a shot. Liu Yin seized the opportunity and brought men to open up the IFVs. He detained all of the unconscious. There were 9 soldiers in each of the IFVs, totaling 18 men. The soldiers were detained and brought before Yu Zhong. Second Lieutenant Su Jigang saw all of his captured comrades after he became conscious. Then he stared at Yu Zhong and asked, "Who are you?" Yu Zhong stared at him and plainly said, "I'm Yu Zhong. I'm a survivor that was just driven out of Longhai City Base. I'm also one of those so-called evolvers." Su Jigang continued to ask, "For what purpose did you capture us?" Yu Zhong looked at Su Jigang and said in a low voice, "I want to know the distribution of Longhai City's defenses." Su Jigang stared at Yu Zhong. He said with emphasis, "You won't get any intel from my mouth. I can't sell off my comrades. You should kill me." Yu Zhong looked at Su Jigang. His eyes were written with the will to die. He unenthusiastically smiled and said, "You have a backbone, but not everyone is the same as you. Bring him over." 2 of Yu Zhong's team members walked over. They carried the bundled Su Jigang behind the vehicle, making sure he was tied up nice and tight. After Su Jigang was taken away, another soldier was brought before Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong stared at the soldier. He had a shaved head, dark skin, and was extremely young. He simply said, "What is your name?" The young soldier hesitated and said, "I am Wu Guang." Yu Zhong coldly said to Wu Guang, "I want to know the distribution of the troops in Longhai City. If you tell me, you can live. Don't speak, and I will violently kill you. Either way, I have 20 captives. One should be willing to talk." Just as Yu Zhong anticipated, Wu Guang nodded his head. He excitedly told everything he knew about the troops in Longhai City. "Yes, I'll speak." When Lei Cheng started, he only had 2 companies totaling 200 soldiers. Also, over 50 of the soldiers who had gone through strict military training died in battle, taking over Qingyuan County. But the survivor base has too many people. Lei Cheng quickly recruited over 500 people who were in the prime of their lives into his ranks. Right now, he has around 600 troops. But although the amount of troops increased a lot, Lei Cheng's combat strength hasn't increased very much. When attacking Qingyuan County, a large amount of ammunition and shells were used up. Right now, Lei Cheng's ammunition supply isn't as much as when he recaptured the military base. Moreover, there are only 10 IFVs in the whole survivor base. Yu Zhong had already seized 2. He had already seized 1/5 of their armored vehicle strength. Yu Zhong stared at Wu Guang and slowly spoke. "Why are you telling me all this information so excitedly?" Wu Zhong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Lei Cheng and his men rounded up all the beautiful women, and they hide in Longhai City, living a life of debauchery. We are left to do all the dirty work. My brothers are already dissatisfied in their hearts, but who wouldn't sacrifice their lives to help him in order to get food? Furthermore, Lei Cheng doesn't have any ability. If it wasn't for his old man, he basically couldn't have become a battalion commander. Zhong, the platoon leader who captured Qingyuan County, is the talented person. Only as soon as he captured Qingyuan County, Zhong mysteriously died. But this matter made his brothers' hearts all half cold. Finished speaking, Wu Guang no longer called Lei Cheng a battalion commander, but rather Wu just called him by his name. The army certainly doesn't publicize that type of thing. Although there are several high-ranking officials with ability, there are also several who use relationships to move up. This is the pattern from ancient times until now. Yu Zhong stared at Wu Guang and said, "Good. From now on you all are one of us. You will start as outside personnel and work your way up. Lu Yan, from now on you are the armored vehicle platoon leader. Wu Guang and your men will form into the 1st Armored Vehicle Squad. You will teach Lu Yan's men to drive and operate the IFV. Wu Guang, you are appointed the vice leader of the 1st Armored Vehicle Squad, and you will be a preliminary team member. The IFV has enormous power, but Yu Zhong doesn't have any skilled soldiers. He could only let Wu Guang and these men complement his ranks and impart IFV driving skills. If not, these two vehicles would slip from Yu Zhong's grasp, and he would have no way to bring into play their formidable combat ability." Lu Yan's face showed a pleasant surprise, and he yelled in response, "Yes." The armored vehicle squad's combat ability greatly exceeded an ordinary soldier. Although the armored vehicle unit only had 2 IFVs, the small armored vehicle squad's combat ability also greatly exceeded other squads. Lu Yan was naturally in ecstasy, being able to command this unit. Hearing Yu Zhong's words, Wu Guang slightly relaxed his breath. He and his comrades wouldn't have to die like this. Several people started to become ruthless in order to live on and live with a better life after ZH. Every day in Longhai City Survivor Base, one could see the corpses of suicide victims and those killed by murderers. Wu Guang hesitated a moment and then asked Yu Zhong, "Captain Yu, what do you plan on doing with platoon leader Su?" Yu Zhong raised an eyebrow and asked, "What do you think?" Wu Guang gritted his teeth. He raised his head, looked at Yu Zhong, and seriously said, "I wish, Captain, you couldn't kill the platoon leader. Although he is a little pedantic, he is a pure soldier. He is also a comrade worthy of our trust." Yu Zhong carefully looked at Wu Guang. Waving his hand, he said, "Bring over Su Jigang." 2 team members brought Su Jigang over from the vehicle. Yu Zhong looked at Su Jigang, and he slightly smiled. He pointed at Wu Guang and reintroduced him to Su Jigang. "Su Jigang, let me give you an introduction. This is our armored vehicle vice leader Su Guang." Su Jigang's face suddenly became pale, and he interrogated Wu Guang. "Little Wu, what is this? Don't tell me, in order to live you are betraying the party, betraying the nation? Are you shamelessly joining this bandit? Don't tell me you feel no shame in front of all these comrades." Chapter 103, Wu Guang's Heartfelt Words. Chapter 103, Wu Guang's Heartfelt Words. Listening to Su Jigang's interrogation, the other soldiers captured by Yu Zhong all lowered their heads in shame. Wu Guang's face changed, eyes flashing a blood-red light. He raised his head without showing the slightest bit of weakness and looked at Su Jigang. "Platoon leader Su, I deeply respect your character and ability. Originally, there were some things I wouldn't think to say, but since you have said these words, I must say what is on my mind. You say I betray the party and the nation. Does that bastard Lei Cheng represent the party and the nation? Just because he is an upper-level army commander, we must sell our lives to him? We put our lives on the line when fighting zombies. And where is that bastard? He is busy getting his hands on all the beautiful women, living a life of debauchery and hiding away in the base. It was leader Zhong who commanded the front lines. After the battle, where did Zhong go? After taking Qingyuan County, we were given all of the most dangerous assignments. Where is Lei Cheng? He is in the base playing with women. His son even publicly seized several women and took them to the barracks. Everyone knows these things. Do these type of men deserve to represent the nation? Where do you live? In the special region. You get to play with the special region women. And us? We live in a shabby building. His direct subordinates eat and drink whatever they want. We can only eat cornbread every day. The only reason is because we aren't his direct subordinates. For the country, I'll fight foreign nations. If I'm needed, then this life means nothing. But to sell my life for a person like Lei Cheng, I spit. He is undeserving. Wu Guang clenched his fists, his body shaking in fury. He became more agitated the more he spoke. The captured soldiers who joined Zhong to save their lives all raised their heads. Wu Guang's words spoke their inner thoughts. They didn't want to sell their lives to a person like Lei Cheng. As soon as Su Jigang heard Wu Guang's words, his face burst green and white. Everything Wu Guang said was true. It's just the job of the soldier is to obey commands. And Su Jigang is a pure soldier. Although he loathed Lei Cheng's character, but he could only resolutely complete the commands of Lei Cheng, because Lei Cheng is his legal superior. Wu Guang gave Su Jigang one final salute. He said without any doubt, Su Jigang, I respect your character and ability. Go back by yourself today. We will follow you Zhong from today on. The next time we meet on the battlefield, I won't hesitate to pull the trigger and drop you. Goodbye. Su Jigang looked at the dozen soldiers standing at Wu Guang's side. He returned a salute to Wu Guang, thinking to leave. Goodbye. Wait a moment. Platoon Leader Su, I have a few words I want you to take to Long Hai City Survivor Base. Zhong called out to Su Jigang. Su Jigang turned his head and looked at Zhong. Zhong slowly said to Su Jigang, I am Zhong. The reason I brought people and fled Long Hai City Survivor Base today, it is entirely because the Ice King Association framed us. We don't have any opposition to Long Hai City Survivor Base. I wish for us to have a dialogue and resolve this problem. Although Zhong attain a warehouse full of weapons, the majority of those weapons are all outdated, and the difference between modern military equipment is huge. Long Hai City's armed forces were still far superior to Zhong's. When it comes to dealing with people of unequal power, it is best to use a dialogue to settle problems. Zhong wasn't opposed to opening a dialogue with Long Hai City Survivor Base. Su Jigang indifferently nodded and turned his body, leaving alone towards Long Hai City Survivor Base. Understood. Seeing Su Jigang leave, Zhong turned to Wu Guang and asked, What mission were you guys carrying out? Long Hai City unexpectedly sent out 2 IFVs to conduct a mission. Obviously, this mission is extremely important. Wu Guang already decided to be loyal to Zhong. He frankly told Zhong the mission he was carrying out. Nearby to the north of Qingyuan County is Shanglin County. In the outskirts of Shanglin County is a large granary. This time our mission was to explore the specific situation of the area. This time we dispatched 3 IFVs. If the mission didn't have any major obstacles, then we were to capture the granary. If there was danger, we were to leave and report the intel to Long Hai City. Then the higher-ups would make a decision. We encountered a flood of mutant rats after arriving at the granary. Each one of those mutant rats was the size of a cat. Their claws were able to penetrate the weak places of the IFV's armor. Although we did our best to resist, attempting to withdraw, an IFV was still trapped in the rat swarm. All of our comrades inside the IFV died in combat. Wu Guang's voice dropped a little bit at the end of his speech. He still couldn't release his feelings towards his fallen comrades. Granary. Hearing this word, Zhong's eyes lit up. If he could capture a granary full of food, the food crisis could be temporarily resolved. Zhong continued to ask, How many soldiers are close to Lei Cheng? And what is their combat ability? Wu Guang thought a moment. Lei Cheng's trusted men totaled to 2 platoons, approximately 70 men. Those men have all gone through strict military training like us. Apart from those soldiers, Lei Cheng has also recruited over 500 survivors to serve as subordinates. It is also said he has used beautiful women to recruit several evolvers. I only know this much. At that time, White Bones, who was hit in the chest and shoulder, jumped out from the side of the highway. Its bones wiggled and extended. The parts hit by the 25mm cannon were restored to their original shape. Yu Zhong attained the intel he wanted. He pondered a moment. Then he led everyone towards Always Bright Village. In a villa at Qingyuan County Specialty Region, a middle-aged fatty wearing military clothes was scolding Su Jigang. What? An IFV was swallowed by rats. The other 2 IFVs were captured by a single person? What did you eat? How are you so incompetent? The fatty in uniform scolding Su Jigang is no other than Qingyuan County's highest military officer, Lei Cheng. Lei Cheng has an irritable temperament, and he is harsh and merciless. Merely because he is the son of a battalion commander, he was able to climb up the ranks to this position. Because he is this type of person, Wu Guang and the rest easily threw in their lot with Yu Zhong. There was a man with extremely neat combed hair. He was wearing military clothes, and he looked like a refined military person. He said to Lei Cheng, "Regiment Commander Lei, calm down. Didn't platoon leader Su say his opponent was an evolver? Evolvers have fantastic abilities of all kinds. A person who could snatch away 2 IFVs obviously has amazing abilities. This extremely refined-looking military person is Lei Cheng's think tank member, Fong Wan. He is also one of Lei Cheng's close comrades. After Lei Cheng enlisted several survivors into his ranks, he immediately made himself the regiment commander. After forming the regiment, Fong Wan adapted to Lei Cheng's fancy, calling him Regiment Commander Lei. Chapter 104. Yu Zhong's Transformation. Chapter 104. Yu Zhong's Transformation. Fong Wan looked at Su Jigang and asked, "What else did he say?" Su Jigang immediately reported Yu Zhong's words to Fong Wan. Lei Cheng heard Yu Zhong's words, and his brows wrinkled. "Yu Zhong, who is he?" Fong Wan analyzed. "I estimate he is a new survivor to the base. He had a problem with the Ice King Association, and then the Ice King Association used all their methods to force him out the base. Yu Zhong hadn't been in Longhai City for many days, and his reputation wasn't known. Fong Wan didn't know much information about Yu Zhong. He could only rely on some clues to speculate. Lei Cheng commanded Fong Wan, carefully inspect his background. Lei Cheng couldn't easily resolve this matter without clearly knowing his opponent's strength. After all, a person who can snatch away 2 IFVs is terrifying. Now Qingyuan County only has 7 IFVs left. If Yu Zhong continued seizing IFVs, they would lose their largest military intimidation power. On the other side, Yu Zhong smoothly brought back the 2 IFVs to Always Bright Village. As soon as the IFVs entered the village, they were surrounded by the villagers. "Is that a tank?" A man who knew nothing about the military looked at the 2 IFVs and asked. "Fool, those are IFVs." Another survivor who knew about the military mocked. "Huh." The survivor ignorant about the military laughed. His eyes filled with warmth as he looked at the 2 IFVs. The defensive power of Always Bright Village just increased. Their lives became even more safe. After Yu Zhong came into power, the survivors' lives became much better than when Tiger was in power. At the very least, everyone could eat gruel every day. If they worked hard, they could also go fishing in the brook. Their lives were extremely satisfying compared to the past. When night fell, all the high-level members of Always Bright Villages were gathered by Yu Zhong into the villa. Everyone has missions during the daytime, so they could only be gathered at night. "What's going on?" Qian looked at Yu Zhong and asked. Yu Zhong left Always Bright Village a couple of days, and obviously he didn't stay very long. Naturally, something unexpected happened. Yu Zhong de-emphasized the situation, saying, "The Ice King Association in Longhai City is shady. I lead everyone out of the base, and we conveniently attained 2 IFVs. Yu Zhong said in a deep voice, "Today I gathered you all to listen to everyone's opinions. Always Bright Village isn't a place for long-term residents. Right now, our current priority is to find a new place to call our base. That place should be easily defendable, and it should have various types of facilities and factories. There are several shortcomings in Always Bright Village, and the supplies are lacking. It didn't compare to the Longhai City Survivor Base in Qingyuan County. There were basically no prospects if they stayed in Always Bright Village. It would just be waiting to die. Zhong always wanted to give Always Bright Village over to the survivors in the past, and he didn't think much about it. But now Zhong decided he can't rely on anyone else, only himself. Right now, the urgent priority is to migrate from here and find a new base. The Guzi extremely energetically proposed. What about Big Cliff Village? The population of Big Cliff Village isn't large, and it has a small-scale steel factory. There are several types of steel and heavy machinery factories. After recapturing that place and resuming production, we will have a large amount of steel products that we can use. The Guzi was the largest supporter of Zhong. The Guzi was more energetic than Zhong himself. He wanted to use Zhong to put on airs. After all, if he didn't have Zhong, the powerless Guzi would become nothing. If Zhong grew more powerful, his position would continue to climb up. Since Zhong seized the weapons arsenal, it would be no problem to launch a small-scale war. It would be no problem to seize the small town of zombies. Zhong considered a moment, then directly refused this proposal. No. Big Cliff Village is too close to Leijiang City, and it is hard to defend. Leijiang City has over 100,000 zombies. If one day they decide to move and attack in that direction, we wouldn't be able to stop them. Guang also proposed, what about Shanglin County? That place has a large granary. If we can solve the mutant rat problem there, we can attain the granary. We wouldn't have to worry about food again. Guang also energetically expressed himself in order to enter Zhong's powerful group. Shanglin County. Zhong held his head with one hand and lightly tapped the table with another. Shaking his head, he said, no. If we capture Shanglin County, then Longhai City Base will attack us. In order to feed themselves, we could be extinguished. Longhai City Survivor Base had already become a threat in Zhong's mind. He couldn't take Shanglin County due to Longhai City Survivor Base. He was unable to predict Longhai City's actions. Other people proposed several counties and villages, but they were all vetoed by Zhong. What about Stone Horse Village? At this time, Guayu, who always sat beside Zhong without speaking, suddenly spoke. Zhong raised a brow and looked at Guayu. Everyone in the meeting looked at Guayu. The young and tender face of Guayu didn't show a trace of nervousness being looked at by so many people. She stared at Zhong and slowly explained. Stone Horse Village rests against Dragonflower Mountain. It is also surrounded by 2 rivers, a natural defense. We only need to defend one side. Guayu methodically explained, if zombies break through our defense, we can also retreat and hide in Dragonflower Mountain. The 2 rivers will also have lots of food, resolving our food supply problem. The only thing to worry about is Dragonflower Mountain could have mutant beasts. But if we resolve the mutant beast problem, then we will have a safe place to live. Also, Big Cliff Village is to the right of Stone Horse Village. If we have strength in the future, we can recapture Big Cliff Village, attaining their heavy machinery and steel. Stone Horse Village is our best choice from a safety point of view. Guayu continuously sought information on the villages near Leijiang City and Longhai City after Zhong took over Always Bright Village, and she selected a place sufficient for Zhong. Zhong asked Qiyang, how is the terrain of Stone Horse Village? Qiyang had been gathering supplies and rushing about all over the place these past few days. He knew the surrounding terrain. Chapter 105. Exploring Stone Horse Village. Chapter 105. Exploring Stone Horse Village. Qiyang looked at Zhong. Shaking his head, he said, I only saw that place from far away. Qiyang hadn't seen Stone Horse Village with his own eyes, and he refused to speak casually about it. Zhong looked at Guayu, and he said in a deep voice, Guayu, go find someone who has been to Stone Horse Village. Tonight, we will go to Stone Horse Village to check it out. If the terrain is as you say, then we will move our base there. You will also be promoted to an official member. Yes, Captain Yu. Guo Yu gave Yu Zhong a beautiful smile without equal. Becoming an official team member is something she attained by using her own strength and receiving Yu Zhong's recognition. By becoming an official team member, she finally felt like she had entered the inner circle of Yu Zhong's powerful group. Yu Zhong sat in the Hummer, and Guo Yu was in the driver's seat, concentrating on driving. Driving a vehicle isn't a hard thing. Only studying the traffic laws is a little troublesome. Guo Yu continuously works hard, and in her spare time, she learned to drive. It is truly cute. Sitting shotgun, Yu Zhong attentively looked upon Guo Yu in the driver's seat. Guo Yu had long black hair like a waterfall. She had soft and creamy skin like cow's milk, making one feel as if a light pinch would make water come out. Her face was like carved from jade, her delicate beyond compare features carrying a trace of a young and tender aura. Accompanying her well-developed fiery figure formed a charm that could cause a person to commit a crime. Guo Yu driving added on an additional 3 times charm points. Although Guo Yu was always at Yu Zhong's side, but Lu Wen always glared like a tiger watching its prey. Therefore Yu Zhong never tasted this sweet Lolita. He has only held on to her and embraced her. As for Yu Zhong, that alone was an enormous joy. Actually, before Z age, Guo Yu lived the life of a princess. Not only did she grow up with beautiful sex appeal, but her father was also the mayor. She could have anything she wanted. If it were before Z age, an ordinary person like Yu Zhong wouldn't even be placed in her eye. If it was a different world, Yu Zhong and Guo Yu would be 2 parallel lines that never intersected. The more Yu Zhong looked at Guo Yu, the cuter he thought she was. He carefully looked at Guo Yu for a moment, then he turned and looked outside. If he continued to look at her, he wouldn't be able to help but take advantage. She was just too cute. On the road, everything is quiet and still in the night of Z age. Yu Zhong's dark night vision skill lets him see far away. Guo Yu stopped the vehicle at an intersection. Turning her head to Yu Zhong, she asked, "Stone Horse Village is 2 kilometers from here. Do you want to drive in?" Yu Zhong looked at the black painted intersection, and he said in a deep voice, "Stop the vehicle." The sound of vehicles can easily attract zombies and mutant beasts. They would be easily attacked if they continued driving their vehicles into the village. It would be hard for Yu Zhong to bring out his full power inside the vehicle. Guo Yu nodded and stopped the vehicle near the intersection to Stone Horse Village. Yu Zhong, Guo Yu, and Zhong Nan, who was a refugee survivor from Stone Horse Village, headed out. In the dark of night, a black figure shot forth from the underbrush towards Yu Zhong like lightning. Yu Zhong's eyes flashed a cold light. Using his imitation Tang sword, he split the figure in 2 halves, spraying blood everywhere. Yu Zhong took a look. That extremely fast figure was a rat the size of a cat. At that time, an extremely fast black figure rushed towards the mutated rat on the ground. Yu Zhong's brows wrinkled, and he kicked the black figure. The black image was knocked back several paces with 1 kick. Yu Zhong took a look. The owner of that black image had short black hair. Its body was short and small, and its face had exaggerated features. Its eyes were flashing hatred. It was a child holding a dagger. The small child kicked up off the floor and rushed toward Yu Zhong like a whirlwind holding the dagger. What fast speed! Looking at the small child's speed, Yu Zhong's eyes flashed with confusion. The small child's speed was astonishing. The child's speed could match an agility type S1 zombie. Yu Zhong's agility has gone through continuous upgrades, and he already exceeded an S1. Looking at the dark-haired small child, Yu Zhong's body slightly shifted, avoiding the small child's attack. Yu Zhong grabbed the small child by the back. The enormous evolver power of Yu Zhong bubbled out and pressed the small child, who was like an civet cat, to the ground. The black-haired child was constantly pressured to the ground by Yu Zhong. He ruthlessly stabbed his dagger towards Yu Zhong's thigh. Seeing the small child be so ruthless, Yu Zhong's brows wrinkled. He sat on the small child, and he grabbed both of the child's hands. Holding on them, he completely suppressed the dark-haired child. Guo Yu grabbed a piece of rope and tied up the small child extremely tightly. The dark-haired child struggled for his life, but didn't say a single word. Zhong looked at the child whose eyes were written with anger. His brows wrinkled. Mute. Zhong looked far away, and he saw 8 people rushing towards him like fire. Seeing how exceptional the small child was, Zhong's heart started pumping. He hid Guiyu and Zhong Nan in the dense underbrush to the side. The 8 people came over from the side. Zhong looked through the gaps in the underbrush. He saw the 8 people were all men. They all looked malnourished, and their clothes were in tatters. But all of their eyes held a mysterious light. A large-sized, malnourished-looking man's eyes flashed with madness. This time, we will grab several easy marks and have a nice meal. A small and frail man licked his dry, cracked lips and said, "What will we do if we run into that dark-haired little sheep again?" A ruthless-looking man said in a deep voice, "Kill him. He stopped us again this time. We will kill him together. If he doesn't die, we will die." Another survivor lewdly continued, "This time if we to get several sheep, I want to have some fun. The last little sheep we ate, I got to play with her pretty rough. I heard it in the past. She was an art student with a lot of ability." Zhong was hiding in the brush. Hearing the absolutely horrifying words of the 8 men, Zhong's mind flashed with murderous thoughts. Zhong had seen several types of cruelty after his age, but eating people, this type of thing greatly exceeded his psychological bottom line. Chapter 106, Domestic Animal. Chapter 106, Domestic Animal. The dark-haired child under Zhong struggled after hearing the words of the 8 mad survivors. But no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't shake of Zhong. As soon as she heard the insane words of the 8 men, Guayu's eyes flashed with fear, and she tightly grabbed onto Zhong's arm. She already knew the cruelty and madness in men's hearts after his age, especially since she had been captured in Always Bright Village. But eating people, this type of madness greatly exceeded her psychological limit. Guayu never thought she and Zhong would run into this type of insane survivors, and her heart began to shiver with fear. "Follow," Zhong said to Guayu in a low voice, after waiting until those 8 insane survivors left. Zhong carried the dark-haired child. Completely restricting him, he said, "Calm down. We aren't their partners." Hearing Zhong's words, the fury in the small child's eyes settled down a little bit, and he no longer struggled. "Right here." The male survivor pointed at a small mountain cave and ferociously smiled. Hearing footsteps, a small 9-year-old girl poked her head out of the cave and took a look. Her face suddenly changed. Like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bough, she retreated back into the cave. The eyes of the men flashed with a color of ferociousness upon seeing the 9-year-old girl. Licking their lips, one strangely smiled. "It's a girl. This time we can have a little pleasure." The 8 men rushed into the mountain cave. They grabbed the young girl and 2 other small boys and brought them out. The 3 children sat shivering on the ground. One of the male survivors' eyes flashed with a maddening light and said, "3 fat little sheep. There's also a girl. This time we can have a little fun." Zhong quietly looked at the 8 men. The small child at his side flashed with dread, ready at any moment to rush towards the 3 children. But the young child couldn't budge under the pressure of Zhong. The dark-haired child stared, eyes filling with rage at Zhong. Yet Zhong didn't have any movement. The survivor, who had the stature of a leader with a ruthless look, said in a commanding voice, "We are leaving. There will be trouble if the dark-haired sheep returns." The remaining survivors nodded. They detained the 3 crying children and took them in the direction of Stone Horse Village. Zhong quietly snuck behind the 8 survivors, following them along the way. The 8 men arrived at a tent on the outskirts of Stone Horse Village. There was a large pot set up outside the tent. Some bones were also discarded next to the tent. The absolutely horrifying thing is that among those bones were 3 human skulls. A survivor looked at the small girl, and his eyes flashed with a lewd light. He took off his pants in front of everyone. "Fuck, big brother. Hurry up. Let everyone first have a little fun." "Good. The leading ruthless survivor's eyes flashed with lewdness. His hand extended towards a young girl to grab her. Looking at the ferocious survivor, the little girl's eyes flashed with dread and hopelessness, and she struggled to retreat away. The ruthless-looking survivor creepily smiled. The struggling of the little girl gave him even more pleasure. He extended a hand and grabbed onto the little girl's shoulder. As soon as the man's hand touched the girl's shoulder, a gunshot sounded off. A bullet easily passed through that man's skull. The ruthless leader immediately fell powerless to the ground. Gunshot. We have enemies. The 7 leftover survivors immediately looked astonished, one by one seeking cover. Zhong's face became ice cold. He strode out of the underbrush, Type 79 assault rifle in hand, and he spread fire at the 7 mad survivors. After emptying the clip, 3 of the men were filled with bloody holes. The remaining 4 survivors fled into the darkness of night. A cold light flashed in Zhong's eyes. He swapped the clip and commanded a White Bones at the same time. Kill them. The ever-present White Bones shot like an arrow, rushing towards the remaining 4 men. Zhong could still see objects for 1,000 meters in the darkness of night. He held the gun and took large strides, spreading fire. Another 2 men were shot down by his gunfire. White Bones zoomed after the few remaining men at the speed of 3 times a normal person. Each step cut down the distance between the 2 by a huge amount. After a few steps, he appeared among a survivor. Waving his axe, he brought a whirlwind that sent his head flying, blood splattering everywhere. The remaining man's face had great changes at seeing the cruel end of his partners. He hated himself for not being faster. White Bones' image flashed. It rushed behind the man in a few steps. The axe waved, sending the last man's head flying. "Don't kill me! Don't kill me!" Zhong looked at the men who had been shot to the ground. A few of them still hadn't died yet. They struggled toward Zhong, begging, "Go die." Zhong's eyes flashed ice cold as he walked before the remaining survivors. He placed a bullet in each of their heads. Zhong was extremely lacking in manpower, but he didn't need these kinds of lowlifes who had already forfeited their humanity. Finishing off the wicked men, Zhong walked over to the 3 small children. The 3 children looked at Zhong, and their eyes revealed a trace of fear. They couldn't help but huddle up and retreat back several steps. The survivors who had lost their humanity had cast a psychological shadow on them. Even though Zhong saved them, they still feared Zhong. Looking at the 3 children, Zhong's brows wrinkled. He grabbed 3 pieces of chocolate from his pocket and tossed it to them. "You simply said eat. I'm not a bad person. Eat up and follow me." Seeing the 3 pieces of chocolate on the ground, their eyes released a light. They quickly snatched the chocolate. Then they peeled the wrapper and began eating. The small girl mustered up some courage. Holding on the remaining half of her chocolate, she walked over to Zhong and asked, "Uncle, can you release Yao Yao?" "Yao Yao? She's a girl?" Zhong turned his head and looked at the child with short dark hair. He originally believed this fierce little monster was a boy. He never thought this fierce little monster who had the speed of an S1 is a girl. Chapter 107, Mutated Monkey. Chapter 107, Mutated Monkey. Yao Yao looked at Zhong, who was looking at her, and she fiercely stared back at him. Zhong slightly smiled. He used the imitation Tang sword and cut the ropes binding her, restoring her freedom. As soon as she gained freedom, Yao Yao immediately walked over to Zhong without fear and extended a hand. Using pure and sweet Lolita voice, she said to Zhong, "Give me back my dagger." Zhong smiled and tossed the dagger back to Yao Yao. "As long as you agree, from today on you all are my people." Yao Yao took back the dagger. While playing with the dagger, she couldn't help but look at the 3 children with chocolate in their hands. Although she is a lone wolf, she couldn't help but be attracted by the food in her hungered state. It is human instinct. Yao Yao couldn't hide her state from Zhong. Smiling, he grabbed another piece of chocolate from his pocket and gave it to Yao Yao. Yao Yao grabbed the chocolate from Zhong and tore open the wrapper, and she nibbled small bites out of it. Zhong saw Yao Yao finish the chocolate and finally asked her, "How is your speed so fast? Did you get a skill book?" Yao Yao thought a moment. Looking at Zhong, she extended a little hand. "Skill book? I don't know what that is. Eat." Zhong once pulled out a compressed biscuit from a bag and gave it to Yao Yao. He continued to ask, "Then how is your speed so fast? Before the age, your speed couldn't be as fast as it is now." Yao Yao thought a moment. "After the age, I drank some life water. After one day and one night, I changed like this." Zhong looked at Yao Yao and quietly thought in his mind, "Is it because she adapted to the virus and she naturally produced an evolution? There has never been a person who underwent mutation from the God and devil world system." Zhong walked over to the camp of the 8 men and entered their tent. He immediately smelled something that made him want to vomit. He resisted the urge and looked inside. Everywhere in the camp were fumes that made one want to vomit, and there was a fishy smell. Zhong only took a look and retreated back out. He would throw up if he stayed in there a second longer. Zhong immediately used Devil Flame and set the camp on fire. All of the sins were burned clean by the flames. After burning down the camp, Zhong walked over to Yao Yao and asked, "Do you know what the situation is inside Stone Horse Village?" Yao Yao used her pure and sweet Lolita voice and said without any hesitation, "I know." Zhong led the 4 children, Guiyu and Zhong, then continuing on towards Stone Horse Village. In the black of night, one couldn't see their hand before their face. Apart from the daring little Lolita, Yao Yao, the others all followed closely behind Zhong. Under the screen of darkness, 2 mutated cats the size of lions rushed like a shot of electricity towards Zhong's group. Whitebones acted. He shot forward like an arrow. His axe flurried like thunder, chopping at the mutated cat's body. A horizontal slash cut the mutated beast into 2 halves, splashing blood everywhere. Zhong used his imitation Tang sword and casually slashed. Carrying a burst of cold light, he cut the airborne cat into 2 halves. Seeing the 2 mutated cats so easily cut in 2 by Zhong, Yao Yao's eyes flashed a strange light. She finally realized, just now, Zhong hadn't even used his full power yet when fighting. As soon as the mutated cats died, an experience orb sunk into Zhong's body, and another experience orb rushed into Whitebone's body. They dropped 1 skill book and 20 life coins each. Level 2 skill book, high speed movement. Using this skill requires 5 stamina. After using the skill, one will receive 15 agility for 30 seconds. Zhong took the skill book and life coins, and he placed them into his backpack. Then he used the imitation Tang sword to open up their skulls and search around, but he didn't find a blood-red bead like the one he found in the mutated river snake. After getting up, Zhong continued on his way. Using Zhongnan's knowledge of the terrain, Zhong arrived at a small hill that overlooked Stone Horse Village. Just like Guiyu described, Stone Horse Village was surrounded by 2 rivers. One side rested against the mountain, and there was only one path in and out. It was indeed a place very suited to be a base. Furthermore, in front of Stone Horse Village was Big Cliff Village. If they could capture Stone Horse Village, they could use it at a stage point to capture Big Cliff Village. Big Cliff Village had a steel yard and steel production factory. After capturing this place, they could obtain various types of steel products. They could even make cold weapons. "Let's go." Carefully observing a moment, Zhong led them back toward the path they came from. After walking 50 meters, Zhong suddenly felt danger. He stopped. He pointed at Guiyu and commanded to Whitebones, "Whitebones, your combat priority is to protect this woman." Whitebones wasn't very bright. If he said protect Guiyu, Whitebones wouldn't know who that is. Guiyu became frightened, and she drew a little closer to Zhong. As soon as Zhong gave Whitebones the command, he immediately used his Type 79 assault rifle and shot madly at a tree. After emptying the clip, a 1.5 m tall, mutated monkey fell from the tree. It was filled with holes, and 5 of the bullets had passed through the head. Zhong tossed the Type 79 assault rifle into the brush. His hand waved, and a new Type 79 assault rifle appeared in his hand. He lifted the gun and continuously fired into the trees like a madman. Among the suppressive fire of Zhong, a black figure bravely jumped down from the tree, and it rushed towards Zhong's group. Level 17 monster, mutated monkey. These monkeys have an agility-type body, sharp claws, and sharp teeth. The most troublesome part is they are grouped creatures. Zhong could easily see using his passive ability night vision. In the dark of night, there were over a dozen mutated creatures rushing out. He emptied a clip and dropped another mutated monkey. Those mutated beasts immediately rushed towards Zhong. Zhong launched Shadow Step in the blink of an eye. In a wink, he slashed 3 times, and 3 sword slashes shown. 3 of the mutated monkeys were chopped in half while soaring through the air, spraying blood everywhere. In the time that Zhong slashed the 3 monkeys, the other monkeys already broke his defensive perimeter. They headed towards the 4 children, Zhong Nan and Guang. Zhong Nan saw the mutated monkey rushing at him, and his face changed. Under the fear, he turned and ran. Chapter 108, Slaughtering Monkey Group. Chapter 108, Slaughtering Monkey Group. 2 mutated monkeys ran before Zhong Nan extremely quickly. They used their claws with mutated strength to easily pierce and rip through his body. Zhong Nan split open in a mangled mess. Blood and intestines flowed out from his body. Zhong Nan didn't even have enough time to yell before a mutated monkey jumped on his shoulders and twisted his head off. With a snapping sound, he turned into a corpse on the ground. On the other side, 7 mutated monkeys were rushing towards Guang and Yao Yao. Whitebone stood before Guang, waving his large axe like a whirlwind. 2 of the monkeys that came too close were split into 2 halves, and their blood flew everywhere. 2 monkeys took advantage of Whitebone's attack range, and they rushed from the flanks at Guang, extending their claws towards her small, delicate face. Whitebones slashed with his axe, and he split the head of the monkey on the right into 2 halves. Red blood and brains sprinkled on the ground. Guang saw the mutated monkey on her left rush forth. Her eyes flashed with fear, and she couldn't help but retreat several steps. A sharp bone spike shot out from the waist of Whitebones when it saw the monkey wanted to grab Guang. It directly pierced through the monkey, and it continued to extend, pushing it back 4 meters. Whitebones took advantage of the opportunity. He waved his axe again and split another rushing monkey in 2. Of the remaining 2 monkeys, 1 rushed towards Yao Yao. Yao Yao's agility was extremely high. Her image flashed. Her dagger and the mutated monkey became entangled together. Another extremely mean and ferocious monkey rushed towards the 3 other small children. Its claw slashed out and cut down a small boy's head. Seeing that scene, Yao Yao's eyes filled with rage. But she was forced to engage with the other monkey, so she could not protect her friends. After killing the small boy, the mutated monkey's image flashed. It extended its hand out to the other small girl, aiming to slash her throat. As the monkey was just about to slash the little girl's throat, a gunshot sounded. The skull of the mutated monkey immediately exploded open. Not far away, Zhong was using his imitation Tang sword to slash away at mutated monkeys while paying attention to the surroundings. He was just a step too late when he noticed the mutated monkey break through Whitebone's defensive line. In the moment that Zhong fired a shot, 2 mutated monkeys ruthlessly took advantage and clawed Zhong's body. The 2 mutated monkeys' claws only formed 2 long white scrapes due to the mutated river snake armor's protection. They were unable to penetrate the mutated river snake scale armor. But like this, the attack of the 2 monkeys still shook Zhong's body, causing endless pain. Zhong used his sword and slashed off the head of a monkey, and then he used his foot to kick the other monkey, knocking it back 7 meters. Zhong didn't have time to gasp for air. Another 4 monkeys were rushing towards him. Zhong's mind was steady. He slightly shifted to the side, dodging the attacks of 2 mutated monkeys. Using a sword, he decapitated a mutated monkey, and then he used his stinger to fire at the heads of 2 monkeys who were within hand's reach. Following the sound of 2 gunshots, the skulls of those 2 monkeys exploded open. Still without time to gasp for air, another 4 monkeys rushed towards Zhong. Zhong focused, not looking at all to the sides. He could only concentrate on the current battle. White Zhong's spirit concentrated. His speed was brought to its highest level. His image flashed like a ghost among the crows of monkeys. Sword slashes flashed, and it looked like a field of blood flowers began to bloom. Each monkey's body was spurting out large amounts of blood. On the other side, White Bones was waving his axe and beheading monkeys. His body often shot out sharp bone spikes which pierced through the monkeys. It was like a piece of reef firmly protecting Guayu. Any monkey that dared approach the reef was decapitated. Yao Yao and the other 2 children also hid behind White Bones at the first moment they could, receiving his protection. White Bones guarded everywhere in front of Guayu, receiving the attacks of several mutated monkeys. But White Bones had gone through many stages of strengthening his body, and their attacks were only able to leave traces of white scratches. They were completely unable to snap his bones. The fierce combat continued for a full 30 minutes. Zhong and White Bones killed 23 monkeys combined. There were corpses scattered all around the small forest, causing an extreme stench. The remaining 5 monkeys felt they couldn't overcome these 2 enemies, and they immediately turned tail and ran. Mutated beasts and zombies aren't the same. They are extremely fierce and violent, and their brutality far exceeds ordinary beasts. But they also have intelligence. When they meet people who they cannot compare to, they produce fear, and they choose to run. If it were an S1 or L1 type zombie, they would fight to the death, refusing to flee. Zhong saw the 5 mutated monkeys flee, and he relaxed a breath. If another wave of mutated monkeys came, he could only carry Guayu and frantically flee. Congratulations, you leveled up to 23. You've attained 2 stat points. Zhong killed 15 monkeys on his own. He finally leveled up to 23 with a large amount of experience orbs. As soon as the 5 monkeys went back up into the trees, a huge explosion landed on the heads of one of the monkeys. The force of the explosion sent the monkey's head flying off of its body. The remaining 4 monkeys were startled, and they fled in all directions. A leaf floated down from the tree, then a massive black figure jumped down. Careful, all of you run away. His sense danger skill continuously reminded him of this enemy's terror. The massive black figure standing before Zhong was over 2 meters tall. Its whole body was covered in black needle-like hair, and its eyes held a fierce red light. The black ape's hands were 20 centimeters long with sword-like claws. Level 33 Mutated Fierce Ape. It possesses monstrous superhuman strength and agility skill. A mutated beast with fierce sharp claws. Zhong could feel the dreadful murderous intent and unmatched power flow out from the mutated beast's body as he gazed upon it. The mutated beast coldly looked down upon Zhong's group as if looking down upon a colony of ants. Zhong looked at the mutated fierce ape. He raised the stinger at it and fired 2 shots. As Zhong was raising the stinger, the mutated beast kicked its feet a little and moved horizontally like a cannon shot. The 2 stinger bullets fiercely hit the tree behind its body, exploding it apart. Chapter 109. Explosive Killing Mutated Fierce Ape. Chapter 109. Explosive Killing Mutated Fierce Ape. It was like the mutated fierce ape blasted when it moved. It was just a trace slower than the speed-type S2 zombie. It avoided Zhong's shot, and it appeared before Zhong like the wind, carrying a biting, cold, fishy smell. The fierce ape ruthlessly clawed, booming towards Zhong's body. Zhong raised his imitation tang sword to block the path of the fierce ape's fist. The fierce ape's eyes flashed blood red. Its fist didn't slow, and the ape tightened up its muscles, booming onto Zhong's sword. The sword and fist clashed. Zhong felt an enormous power that flooded without end from the sword. The imitation Tang sword his right hand was shaken and sent flying into a faraway tree by the fist of the fierce ape. So extreme. At the first moment, Zhong activated the skill Shadow Step, and his image suddenly retreated. The numb right hand flipped over, and another imitation Tang sword appeared in his hand. White Bones immediately saw the situation while protecting Guiyu, and it shot out two extremely sharp bone spikes towards the mutated fierce ape. The fierce ape used its large hand to grab onto a bone spike shot out from White Bones. Then it put forth its strength to ruthlessly fling White Bones into a large tree. Zhong's speed was just about as fast as the fierce ape after he started the Shadow Step skill. He took advantage of the fierce ape dealing with White Bones, and he shot forward like an arrow. A sword followed by a cold howl chopped into the waist of the fierce ape. The sharp imitation Tang sword, under the excessive power from Zhong's strengthening, chopped open the mutated fierce ape's flesh, tearing a shallow wound. After the ape was wounded, it became even more frantic. Its whole body flexed on the wound, unexpectedly locking Zhong's imitation Tang sword in place. Then it took advantage of the opportunity and sent a fist at Zhong. Truly a monster. Zhong released the sword and suddenly withdrew. He used his left hand and aimed the stinger up to the mutated beast. As soon as Zhong aimed the stinger at the mutated fierce ape, the extremely murderous beast felt a sense of intense danger coming. It kicked and moved to the side several meters. Its instincts could feel Zhong's stinger had enough terrifying power to kill it. What a cunning animal! Zhong's brows wrinkled. His right hand flitted about, and a Type 79 assault rifle appeared. He directly aimed at the mutated fierce ape with the Type 79 assault rifle and laid down fire like a madman. The beast's body was hit by several bullets at such a short distance under concentrated fire, but the bullets were unexpectedly unable to pierce into the body. They only broke into the skin. The fierce ape's muscle could be compared to steel when it flexed its muscles. Were it not for this, Zhong's sword attack just now would have chopped its waist. The mutated fierce ape became even more frantic after having its skin pierced by the bullets. Its eyes flashed a fierce light, and it rushed through the bullets like a cannon towards Zhong. After a few steps, it appeared before Zhong, and it clawed out to grab him. Zhong's eyes flashed a cold light. He extended out a finger. He lightly bent it and aimed the fireball ring right at the rushing mutated fierce ape. A fireball shot out from the ring towards the mutated fierce ape when it was only 2 meters away. The beast wasn't prepared for Zhong's fireball ring. It could only raise a claw to block in front of its body. The mutated beast's hand exploded and broke when the tyrannical fireball boomed onto its fist. White Bones took advantage of the opportunity and ruthlessly shot out a bone spike into the mutated fierce ape's knee. The beast lost its balance and collapsed to one side. Seizing the moment, Zhong used his left hand and aimed the stinger at the beast's body, firing off 3 shots. The fierce ape's fighting skill was truly extraordinary. As soon as it stumbled, it rolled to the side, avoiding certain death. Only one stinger bullet hit near its right chest area, making a fist-sized hole. After the ape rolled to the ground, it climbed up and jumped to the side towards a large tree. He already felt the threat of death, which gave birth to the idea of fear. White Bones extended both hands and shot out Bone Spike after Bone Spike of the tree. The ape escaped to, forming a White Bones prison. The mutated fierce ape wildly waved its claws, cutting open the White Bones prison like tofu. Zhong took advantage of the fierce ape being tied up with White Bones, and he advanced forward while reloading the stinger. He raised up the stinger and the ape and continuously bombarded from close range. Each bullet left a fist-sized bloody hole in the ape's body. The 6 bullets all landed into the fierce ape, and it powerlessly fell to the ground, completely losing its life. An experience orb floated out and landed on Zhong. Congratulations, you have leveled up to 24. Congratulations, you have leveled up to 25. Yu Zhong heard two sweet-sounding level-up noises in his inner conscious as soon as the experience orb entered his body. Add everything to stamina. Yu Zhong immediately chose. A light within his body shattered, and it re-nourished his body, making it even more tyrannical. Yu Zhong quickly took all the dropped skill books and white boxes from the mutated monkeys and fierce ape into his bag. Then he used an imitation tang sword to break open the fierce ape's skull. Inside, he found the thing he wanted to find. Found one. Yu Zhong searched around within the brain of that fierce ape and found a small white bead. He was extremely happy, and he quickly took the white bead and put it inside his storage ring. Just when Yu Zhong thought to leave, they looked at the two 20 centimeters long paws of the mutated fierce ape. He thought for a moment, and then you took the two paws and placed them into his storage ring. Quick, let's go. Yu Zhong finally said to Guan and the other three in a low voice after finishing everything. The succession of using two shadow step skills in a row, encountering the group of monkeys, and fighting the fierce ape caused Yu Zhong's stamina to fall to an extremely dangerous level. Yu Zhong would be in danger if he encountered another fierce ape or group of monsters. But delaying for treasure is a necessity. Guan and the others closely followed behind Yu Zhong. Yao Yao looked at the monkey corpses surrounding the forest and then looked at Yu Zhong. Her eyes flashed a strange light, and she followed behind Yu Zhong. Along the road, they didn't encounter another mutated beast. Yu Zhong's group smoothly returned to the vehicle. Guan started the car and took them back towards Always Bright Village. Chapter 110, Attack Stone Horse Village. Chapter 110, Attack Stone Horse Village. Yu Zhong carefully inspected the equipment dropped by the fierce ape inside the car. The mutated monkey group and the mutated fierce ape dropped 4 skill books and 8 white treasure boxes altogether. Among the skill books, there was a rank 1 fireball book, a rank 1 ice cone technique book, a rank 2 high-speed movement book, and a rank 3 enormous power solidification book. Rank 3 skill, enormous power solidification. This is a passive skill. After studying, you will permanently receive an 8-point increase to power. Yu Zhong immediately learned the enormous power solidification skill book. A flash of light. A new rune formed in his sea of knowledge. As soon as the rune formed, he felt his power increase several points. In the 8 white boxes, he opened a set of strength clothes, a pair of strength shoes, power gloves, and 2 imitation tang swords. The rest of the 3 boxes were all empty. Yu Zhong directly gave the rank 1 fireball and rank 2 high-speed movement skill books over to Guan, saying, "Little Yu, this is yours." Guan big, beautiful eyes flashed with joy and excitement as soon as she received the 2 skill books. She revealed a sweet smile to Yu Zhong, saying, "Thank you, Master." Being the person at Yu Zhong's side, Guan naturally knew the preciousness of a skill book. A skill book had the ability to make one far exceed ordinary evolvers. Her receiving this skill book signifies her receiving Yu Zhong's trust, becoming one of his people. Such a cute little fox. Yu Zhong's heart couldn't help but slightly sway looking at Guan cute Lolita smile. His vision moved away from Guan body. If he kept staring at the beautiful Guan, he couldn't guarantee he wouldn't push himself onto this Lolita. No matter the time and place, this wouldn't be the least bit decent. Hee, looks like my charm really hasn't gone down. Guan looked at Yu Zhong, who was a little displaced. She thought a moment and revealed a crafty smile, feeling good. Yu Zhong looked at the little Yao Yao covered in dirt in the rearview mirror. He thought a moment and gave her the other high-speed movement skill book, saying, "This is a high-speed movement book. Can you learn it?" Yao Yao took the high-speed skill book tossed to her by Yu Zhong and turned it over left and right. Then she tried to open it to look at the pages, but it wouldn't open. Her brows wrinkled. She asked Yu Zhong using her sweet Lolita voice, "How do I open the book?" Yu Zhong directly said, "Don't open it. You only need to say in your mind, 'I want to study this book.' Then you will naturally learn it." Yao Yao shut her eyes. A brilliant light flashed, and the skill book in her hands disappeared. Yu Zhong looked at Yao Yao and curiously asked, "Yao Yao, what level are you in God and Devil World?" Ye Yao opened her eyes and grabbed the chocolate Yu Zhong had given her. Eating and speaking at the same time, she said, "Level 1. Yu Zhong continued to ask, "What level is your agility?" 20. Yu Zhong was a little startled hearing this number. His agility was half of Yao Yao when he was level 1 in the God and Devil World system. Her maturity is much larger than Yu Zhong's at that time. Returning back to Always Bright Village, Yu Zhong took a bath and lay down on the bed. Lu Wen slept on his left-hand side, and Guiyu slept on his left. They traveled through the night to return to Always Bright Village. So Guiyu and Lu Wen both fell asleep as soon as they hit the pillow. After the two Lolitas fell asleep, Yu Zhong finally grabbed the white bead from the mutated fierce ape and swallowed it. As soon as the white bead entered Yu Zhong's stomach, a heat instantly spread throughout Yu Zhong's body, continuously strengthening him. Congratulations, you attained 8 stamina. A pleasing announcement sounded in Yu Zhong's sea of knowledge after the flowing heat disappeared. Awesome. Yu Zhong heard the announcement sound, and the corners of his mouth slightly lifted, revealing a satisfied smile. Finally, he went to sleep. The next day, Qiang stayed behind. Yu Zhong brought a large group of people and an IFV towards Stone Horse Village to clear out. Although Stone Horse Village has mutated beasts living there, as soon as they kill the beasts, that piece of land will be the best fit for Yu Zhong's group to establish a base. Furthermore, mutated beasts are a resource. Evolvers who can kill them are able to continually become stronger. A vast motorcade of Hummers, Jeeps, Dongfeng trucks, and an IFV quickly arrived at Stone Horse Village. The rumbling sounds of all the vehicles attracted the zombies of Stone Horse Village. A large amount of zombies attracted by the sound started swaying out of the village. Wang Shuang's group, Xiao Ming's group, Lu Yan's group, De Guzi's group, and Yu Zhong's group all quickly got out of their vehicles. All of the personnel totaled up to 80 men. Wang Shuang, Xiao Ming, Lu Yan, and De Guzi's groups were all companies of 12 men. Yu Zhong's group originally had 24 people, but he absorbed the 6 people from Ji Qingwu's group after she left. There were 80 people when adding on Lu Wen and Guiyu. Yu Zhong coldly looked around at all the combat personnel and said, "Each unit prepare for battle. Wait until the zombies reach within 100 meters. Open fire after receiving my command. The family members of the men who die will be taken care of. They will receive a preliminary team member salary and treatment. Anyone who retreats without the command will be killed on the spot. Their dependents will have their status and benefits canceled. Is that clear?" Clear. Their hearts shivered with fear after being looked upon by Yu Zhong, and they loudly replied, "Go prepare," Yu Zhong commanded. The combat personnel were all brought under the command of their respective units and taken to a concealed location. After all the combat personnel were in place, Yu Zhong commanded to White Bones, who was wrapped in bloody cloth, "Enter the village and extract the zombies for us." The eyes of White Bones flashed with a spirit flame, and it quickly rushed into the village. The zombies, originally disturbed by the noise of the motorcade, immediately swayed out of the village towards White Bones as soon as they smelled the bloody human scent. White Bones rushed into the village, and he waved his axe, beheading 6 zombies. The packed group of zombies followed and circled around White Bones. Chapter 111, Fierce Battle. Chapter 111, Fierce Battle. Under the temptation of White Bones, the dense pack of zombies were seduced out of the village. The amount of zombies were astonishing. Their bodies were rotten, and they wore almost completely tattered and moldy clothing. They lurched around, and some even had maggots crawling around on their bodies. This astonishingly large amount of zombies gave people a heavy, oppressive feeling. An ordinary person facing 1 or 2 zombies would not feel anything, but after they formed into a large group, it gave people a feeling of helplessness. Seeing the zombie crowd extracted by White Bones, everyone apart from Yu Zhong was in a cold sweat. They had encountered small groups of a dozen or so zombies before, but this was the first time they were facing over 1,000 zombies. Their fighting force was barely 80 men. Furthermore, the bullets of several people combined didn't number more than 1,000. Yu Zhong calmly observed the zombies. Among the zombie group, there was one demon figure like an S2 closely pursuing White Bones, and it was quickly closing the distance. In addition to this, there were 13 S1 zombies chasing after White Bones. Among those ordinary zombies, dozen or more S1 zombies were overthrowing the ordinary zombies at the front, trampling those ordinary zombies and going forward. Without even firing a shot, dozens of zombies had become stepping stones. Yu Zhong observed the zombie operation from far away and slightly relaxed a breath. Not bad. There aren't any intelligent zombies commanding. Having a commander and not having one were two entirely different scenarios. If there was a zombie that could command the others, then mankind would be in danger. After all, the amount of zombies is 10 times the amount of humans, and furthermore, they weren't afraid to die. These types of soldiers were the most terrifying. Don't open fire without my command, Yu Zhong commanded. He rushed out from his concealed position towards the S2. The S2 was like a phantom. Yu Zhong's unit would suffer heavy losses if it entered their position. Yu Zhong rushed before the S2 with several lightning movements. The S2's image flashed, abandoning White Bones. It rushed towards Yu Zhong like a ghost. White Bones shot out countless thin and long sharp bone spikes from his body at nearly the same time. It firmly pierced through the S2 in several places, holding it airborne. Yu Zhong slashed with the imitation Tang sword and cut off the head off the S2. A large experience orb sunk into his body. Congratulations, you have leveled up to 26 and received 2 stat points. A pleasing announcement appeared in Yu Zhong's ears after killing the S2. Yu Zhong quickly put the skill book, green treasure box, and 200 life coins dropped by the zombie into his bag. Then he welcomed the 13 S1 zombies with White Bones. The S-type zombies were the most problematic for ordinary people. If he didn't take them out, it would create tremendous psychological pressure towards the combat units in a short time. Yu Zhong's group hadn't even been formed for a month. Their mentality was far away from veteran soldiers. There would soon be deserters, even under harsh military law, if morale wasn't raised. The 13 S1s didn't have the slightest bit of hesitation towards the power gap between them and Yu Zhong and White Bones, and they continued rushing forward. Yu Zhong dashed into the middle of the 13 S1 zombies. Slashing his imitation Tang sword, a sword flash appeared, and he easily took the head of a S1. White Bones stood at Yu Zhong's side and continuously slaughtered any S1 who tried to approach Yu Zhong. The 13 S1 zombies were all wiped out within 10 seconds under the coordination of the two. Immediately after killing the S-type zombies, they ran back to their positions. He and White Bones couldn't attain victory facing this large group of zombies alone. The morale soared after seeing Yu Zhong and White Bones take out the S1 and S2 zombies, and then safely return to the formation. The leader advancing first in front of the crowd could inflame the subordinates' morale. Of course, the group would immediately fall apart if Yu Zhong was killed. After returning to the group, Yu Zhong silently stared at the far-away, slow-moving zombies. The 5 combat units gazed upon the zombies from far away, hands tightly holding their guns. They didn't dare make any strange movement. Every person was nervously looking at the zombies slowly lurching forward. Upon seeing the zombie group enter within 100 meters, Yu Zhong commanded in a deep voice, "Open fire." Yu Zhong knew that letting the zombies come a little closer would be better, but the bodies of the men beside Yu Zhong were all slightly shivering. He was afraid they couldn't handle the pressure if those zombies came any closer. Fire! Hearing Yu Zhong's words, Lu Yin and the other leaders all roared. The roar let off all of the fear in their hearts. In the blink of an eye, heavy firepower was released. Countless bullets were shot out towards those zombies. The zombies headed towards Yu Zhong's group were hit with all kinds of light and heavy firepower. It was like they were knocked down one after another by an invisible wall, especially those hit by the terrifyingly powerful heavy machine gun bullets. Some of the zombies were hit at the waist and split in half. Some of the heavy machine gun bullets even pierced through 4 or 5 zombies. Yu Zhong's brows wrinkled, and he commanded, cease fire. This is the first time Liu Yin and the others had encountered such a large zombie group. They nervously emptied their clips without any aim. But the zombies were extremely condensed and packed on the highway. As long as one fired in that direction, they couldn't go wrong. They would always be able to hit an enemy. Liu Yin and the other finally ceased fire under the command of Zhong. Furthermore, they had the rare opportunity to reload ammunition. In less than a minute, over 1,000 bullets had been fired, and Zhong felt a little regret. Zhong's group had just ceased fire, and the zombies that had been hit started to crawl back up. Several had bullet holes all over their bodies, yet they still advanced towards Zhong's group. They weren't the same as humans. Only if there was a headshot or the spine was broken would the zombies stop advancing. Aim and shoot. Try your best to hit the head. Zhong commanded and aimed his Type 81 rifle at the same time, shooting a zombie. A faraway zombie's head immediately revealed a bloody hole, and it collapsed to the ground. Zhong didn't stop training for a single day after attaining the firearms control skill. Within 100 meters, he was 70% sure he could hit the target. Hearing Zhong's command, 5 heavy machine guns ceased fire. The remaining personnel all used rifles to aim and fire towards the zombies. The zombies advanced much faster after switching to aiming and shooting. After all, the large majority of personnel didn't have much shooting experience. But several soldiers among Zhong's group exhibited a clear, deep shooting skill, clearly aiming and hitting one zombie head after another. Chapter 112, Close Combat Unit. Chapter 112, Close Combat Unit. Seeing the zombies creep closer and closer, a team member's eyes filled with fear. After recklessly emptying his clip, he let out a large scream and turned to flee. The zombies were only 50 meters from Zhong's group. Several of the team members' hearts were filled with fear of the zombies. It was important to know one wound from a zombie could cause someone to be infected. Zhong aimed his rifle at the fleeing team member. A bullet pierced through his head and made him powerlessly fall to the ground. Zhong looked around and let out a mean and ferocious yell. Whoever dares turn tail will be immediately shot. Seeing the team member be shot by Zhong, the originally unstable morale settled down. Liu Yin turned to his men with an ashen face and roared, "Don't worry about Zhong's group. If you turn tail and flee, this boss will be the first to slaughter you." The team member who fled just now was one of Liu Yin's subordinates. That member made Liu Yin lose a lot of face. Zhong saw the distance between them and the zombie had lowered, and he deeply yelled, "Completely open fire." Hearing Zhong's command, the sweaty-handed team members finally laid down fire like madmen at the zombies. Layer after layers of zombies were torn apart by the bullet rain, especially the heavy machine gun bullets. They only needed to hit a body to split it in two, rendering it unable to move. A large layer of the zombie group collapsed under the second round of bullet rain. Zhong commanded, "Cease fire." This time, everyone ceased fire. After the bullet rain stopped, the zombies who weren't killed crawled up once again from the ground. But a large amount were all hit by heavy machine gun fire after going through a couple rounds of bullet rain. Only a couple dozen scattered zombies crawled back up. There were still nearly 100 zombies cut off at the waist that were crawling towards Zhong's group. Close Combat Group. Switch to Imitation Tang Swords. Follow me. Zhong looked at the remaining scattered zombies, and he led the way rushing out. Zhong's directly subordinate unit were all brave warriors that he recruited to conduct close combat with zombies. Altogether, there were only 10 people. Each one held an imitation Tang sword, and they wore mutated river snake armor. These 10 people were all under the command of Qi Yang when Zhong wasn't present. They specialized in close combat, and each person was level 4 or above. The 10 people belonging to the close combat unit closely followed Zhong, rushing into the zombies. They chopped imitation Tang swords extremely fiercely, and they cut through zombie skulls like chopping through chives. Using God and Devil World weapons to strengthen up wasn't a secret in Zhong's group, but those who were brave enough to do close combat with zombies were relatively few. These 10 soldiers were the ones brave enough to fight, even without wearing the river snake armor. Due to this, Zhong let them use the imitation Tang swords and leftover God and Devil World equipment to level up. Of course, all of the God and Devil World equipments were returned to Zhong or Qi Yang after every mission. The 10 men split into 3 small groups. They worked together with careful coordination to methodically behead zombies after zombies. Zhong and White Bones rushed into the middle of the remaining zombies. Everywhere he went, the zombies were unable to block his casual slashes. The rest of the soldiers looked with fear and respect upon seeing Zhong and his subordinates slaughtering the zombie crowd. Zhong's group of people was lacking someone experienced with steel manufacturing. Because of this, the large majority lacked cold weapons. Zhong couldn't let the others fight zombies in close combat without weapons. After a short time, all the remaining zombies were cleared out by Zhong's group. Those few zombies lacking arms and legs were no match for Zhong's subordinates. After clearing this batch of zombies, Zhong put a fireball skill book and 200 life coins in his bag. He continued to make White Bones enter the city to attract zombies. The large majority of zombies in the town were cleared out by Zhong's group after several rounds of this. But they used up a large amount of ammunition and heavy machine gun rounds. Zhong commanded each unit to advance into the town after clearing out the large majority of zombies. Each unit advanced into the village under Zhong's command. Each unit also received 2 close combat unit members from Zhong's group to deal with difficult zombies. There were still scattered zombies in the village, and they were often attracted by gunshots. Zhong strode into the interior of the village. The main zombie force was wiped out. The remaining scattered zombies basically were no match for the well-equipped troops. Zombies after zombies were slaughtered, and the village was recovered inch by inch. A large amount of gunfire suddenly erupted near Xiao Ming's group. Zhong's brows wrinkled, and he immediately brought the remaining 2 close combat unit evolvers towards Xiao Ming's location. Zhong quickly arrived at Xiao Ming's location. He saw in that direction a nearly 3-meter-tall, enormous zombie made of black flesh and muscle was fighting with Xiao Ming's group. Xiao Ming's group of soldiers continuously laid fire down at the zombie like madmen. The concentrated rifle shots all bounced off of the enormous zombie's black lump of flesh. They were completely unable to pierce the enormous zombie's flesh. Level 30, Type 2, Power Zombie L2. Possesses enormous power and defense. Has the skill Virus Infection, able to turn living organisms into the infected. An announcement immediately sounded in Zhong's sea of knowledge as soon as Zhong saw the huge zombie. The huge zombie's speed was 3 points faster than an ordinary person's. It was like a tank rushing towards Xiao Ming's group. It grabbed an ordinary team member by the head and pinched, exploding his head. Xiao Ming's group momentarily collapsed, seeing the enormous zombie be so fierce. The large majority of members all tossed their guns and fled in all directions. Don't flee. Keep shooting. Keep shooting. Xiao Ming roared with a scarlet-red face, and at the same time, he continuously shot at the huge zombie. But not a single person listened to his command. Only the 2 close combat unit members belonging to Zhong and the 3 close subordinates next to him stayed. They kept firing at that nearly insurmountable zombie. Shot after shot landed on that large lump of blackness, and they were all sent flying without penetrating its body. Even though the close combat members belonging to Zhong were completely scared stiff by the enormous zombie, they could only stand there because the order to withdraw had not been given. They absolutely weren't able to advance. Zhong didn't give a second glance to the fleeing team members. In a few steps, he appeared before the L2. He grasped the imitation Tang sword and ruthlessly chopped into the waist of the L2. Chapter 113. Fierce L2. Chapter 113. Fierce L2. Following an ear-splitting metal-cutting sound, Zhong had used his power on the L2's waist to cut a thin, small crack. Even with him adding stats to strength and power and using the sharp imitation Tang sword, he could only cut this little bit. The bones weren't even visible. The exterior of the black keratin membrane was like cutting into steel. The L2 looked at Zhong like he was just a little insect buzzing in front of his eyes. It ruthlessly slammed its large hand towards Zhong. Zhong's agility far exceeded that of the L2. His body slightly shifted, avoiding the L2's strike, and he used the sword to slash the L2's elbow. Unexpectedly, countless sparks flew out as soon as the imitation Tang sword landed on the L2's body, and he was unable to cut through. The L2 waved a hand to slap Zhong. As soon as the L2 moved, Zhong sidestepped, and he circled around the L2. He started the skill Devil Flame, and a ball of scarlet-red flame lit up from his right hand. Zhong used a knife hand to chop into the L2's thigh. The Devil Flame started to madly combust an enormous hole as soon as it landed on the L2's thigh. Zhong circled around the L2's thigh, and it was immediately cut in two by the Devil Flame. The L2 lost its balance and heavily fell on the ground. Zhong took a large step forward, stepping a foot onto the L2's forehead. A scarlet-red Devil Flame momentarily burst from his foot, turning the L2's skull into ash. A large experience orb entered Zhong's body as soon as the L2 died. The L2's corpse also dropped a skill book and a green treasure box. Zhong quickly put the skill book and green treasure box into his bag. Finished with the L2, Zhong finally turned and looked with a livid face at those who abandoned their commander, Xiao Ming, and fled. Those who had abandoned their weapons and fled were all detained and brought before Zhong by his subordinates. One of Xiao Ming's subordinates looked at Zhong with fear, and he knelt before Zhong, begging, "I'm sorry. Captain Yu, spare my life. From today on, I will face the enemy without fear. Please allow me to atone for my sins. Captain Yu, release us this one time. We won't commit an offense again after today. I'm begging you to spare our lives. That monster was too strong. We were no match. Staying there was merely being sent to death." The subordinates of Xiao Ming who had fled knelt before Zhong and started begging. Xiao Ming looked at those who fled, and then he said to Zhong a little hesitantly, "Captain Yu, we should give them another chance." Zhong looked at the 8 subordinates of Xiao Ming and coldly said, "It doesn't matter what the reason, all of you committed the offense of fleeing the battlefield. All of you will be shot on sight." Xiao Ming couldn't help but persuade. "Captain Yu, training a team member isn't that easy." If the 8 men of Xiao Ming's group were shot and killed, then he would forfeit his team's combat ability. Although the 8 men turned tail and ran, they were all strong young men. Also, they understand how to use guns. It would be troublesome to train and recruit new people, and it would take some time to make them combat ready. Zhong stared at Xiao Ming and coldly said, "Military law is ruthless. What good is military law if it isn't carried out ruthlessly? Get to work." Receiving the command of Zhong, his direct subordinates took out their guns and aimed at the heads of the 8 men, then pulled the trigger. Following the sound of 8 gunshots, Xiao Ming's 8 subordinates were all executed. Looking at the miserable scene, Xiao Ming couldn't bear to turn his head. The surrounding people who looked at this scene all shivered with fear in their hearts. They now had a much deeper familiarization with military law. Zhong looked at Xiao Ming and dully said, "Xiao Ming's command is detrimental. Dissolve the 5th team leader captain position. The 5th unit will be absorbed into the 2nd unit. Xiao Ming is demoted to a preliminary team member." Just now, when Xiao Ming discovered the indomitable strength of the L2, he should have given the command to retreat. He didn't give the command to retreat, and this is an unforgivable error, but Xiao Ming was a qualified soldier. His training was the most regimented, and he possessed an extremely powerful innate shooting ability. He already had a 70% bullseye rate from within 100 meters. Xiao Ming's heart was a little disappointed. He nodded and responded, "Yes." Zhong looked at Xiao Ming and said, "Go to the 2nd unit and report. Clear out the zombies." "Yes." Xiao Ming yelled a response and brought his remaining people over to the Guzi's 2nd Combat Unit. The 2nd Combat Unit's command was temporarily given over to the Guzi after Ji Qingwu left. Yu Zhong didn't have many people he could trust under his command. The main power in the center of the town was wiped out. The few remaining scattered zombies couldn't withstand the armed forces. One of Liu Yan's team members walked over to Yu Zhong and reported, "Captain Yu, we discovered a survivor. They want to meet you." Yu Zhong asked, "Who is it?" The team member said, "They call themselves the mayor of Stone Horse Village." Yu Zhong thought a moment and then said to the soldier, "Take me to have a look." Yu Zhong arrived at a spacious manor house under the guidance of the soldier. He could see inside the manor that 5 survivors were being watched over by 4 soldiers with guns. A fatty with a belly, as if he was 9 months pregnant, yelled, "I want to meet your leader." The soldiers coldly looked at the survivors without saying a word. "You want to meet me?" Yu Zhong walked before the man named Wei Cheng and dully said. Wei Cheng pointed to the young man who had a look of arrogance and said, "I am Wei Cheng, the mayor of Stone Horse Village. This person is the son of the Longhai City secretary. So long as you escort us to the Longhai City survivor base, the secretary certainly won't forget your act of kindness." Yu Zhong looked over at the young man. The young man's face was arrogant, and 2 beautiful 21 or 22-year-old women clung onto him, their faces unchanged even though they were surrounded by the 4 soldiers. Looking at Yu Zhong with a slanted eye, he proudly said, "You are this army's chief? I am Qian Yiming. You only need to escort me to Longhai City survivor base. My father will certainly make you a big official." "Idiot!" A word bubbled up in Yu Zhong's mind while looking at the arrogant face of Qian Yiming. At this time, 2 soldiers brought in 4 malnourished-looking women wearing ragged clothes. They were all of different sizes. Liu Yan looked at one in the group who was rather pretty and said, "This is our leader. Whatever words you have, say them to our Captain Yu." The rather pretty woman burst into tears when she saw Yu Zhong. She knelt down before him and pointed at Qian Yiming, begging, "Mighty Captain Yu, I'm begging you, help me kill that scum." Chapter 114, Life-Saving Plant. Chapter 114, Life-Saving Plant. Qian Yiming looked at the woman kneeled before Yu Zhong. A fierce light flashed in his eyes, and he snapped, "Shut up! You dare speak out of turn? Be careful, or I'll kill you." The woman shivered from Qian Yiming's words. She pulled a little girl about the same size as Yao Yao over, and she told Yu Zhong, "Captain Yu, this scum not only raped me, he and other people raped my little sister together. Please help me take responsibility." Yu Zhong looked at the little girl who was about the same size as Yao Yao. Her face was full of fear and numbness. Her eyes flashed a hint of anger. Looking at Qian Yiming, his eyes also flashed a hint of murderous intent. Qian Yiming noticed Yu Zhong staring at him, and he immediately shouted in fear, "But it is just playing with 2 women. What are you up to looking at me? Could be you truly want to kill me? My father is the financial secretary of Longhai City. You dare touch a hair on my head, and he will refuse to let you go. Send me to Longhai City. I will give you however many women you want." A cold light flashed in Yu Zhong's eyes. He pulled out a handgun and pointed it at Qian Yiming's forehead, then pulled the trigger. A bang sounded. A bloody hole was created between Qian Yiming's eyebrows. His eyes were filled with fear and disbelief as he lifelessly fell to the floor. "Who else touched your little sister?" Yu Zhong's eyes flashed with murderous intent as he looked around at the survivors. The woman's eyes were filled with hatred, one by one pointing out the men of the group. She venomously said, "Them, these people all had a part." Wei Cheng was frightened and kneeled before Yu Zhong begging, "Captain Yu, don't kill me. Qian Yiming forced me. If I didn't do her, then he wouldn't have let me eat. I was forced." Seeing the son of the Longhai City secretary be killed at the whims of Yu Zhong, Wei Cheng's cards were all used up. He didn't dare rely on the skeletons of the old system. He kneeled before Yu Zhong and wagged his tail like a dog for his crimes. "Captain Yu, don't kill me. I was also forced by Qian Yiming. Captain Yu, spare my life." The remaining male survivors also knelt and begged before Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong coldly commanded, "Execute them all." Yu Zhong's direct subordinates pressed the male survivors to the ground. They raised rifles up to their foreheads and pulled the trigger. Following the sounds of 4 gunshots, the 4 survivors were all executed on the spot. "Don't kill me. I'll do anything. I'll do anything." One of the beautiful women next to Qian Yiming knelt before Yu Zhong and begged. The other beautiful woman stood beside Qian Yiming, scared stiff. A yellow liquid flowed out from the inside of her thighs. Those two were continuously at Qian Yiming's side, and they had seen all of the evil things he did. But the sight of so many people executed before them frightened them. The thought of their future caused endless fear. Yu Zhong looked at the 2 women, then waved his hand at a subordinate. "Take them away." Although these 2 women were beautiful, neither could compare to Lu Wan and Guayu. The subordinate received Yu Zhong's command and immediately forced the 2 women to leave. "Thank you." The woman who accused Qian Yiming expressed thanks to Yu Zhong. She took her younger sister and silently turned to leave. The woman wasn't far away before she returned to Yu Zhong's side and said, "Captain Yu, I have some information I need to tell you." Yu Zhong looked at her and said, "What information?" The woman looked at Yu Zhong and said, "I discovered a type of plant that has magical healing properties. Please follow me." Yu Zhong stared at her a moment and asked, "What is your name?" She said, "I'm Zhong." Yu Zhong commanded, "Lead the way." The whole village fell into Yu Zhong's hands not long after. He also wasn't afraid of Zhong playing any tricks. Zhong, he didn't say much. She just quietly led Yu Zhong's group through the town. After 7 or 8 turns, Zhong led Yu Zhong to a place near the edge of Stone Horse's Mountain. Zhong pointed at a yellow flower blooming out of a human skull with 4 petals. She said to Yu Zhong, "This is the plant. I saw 2 monkeys fighting in the past. One of them won, but its stomach was split open. It was covered in wounds from head to toe. It then chewed one of these plants and spread the juice all over the wound on its stomach. It mysteriously healed the monkey's wound in a short time." Yu Zhong looked carefully, only saw those small yellow flowers blooming from a plant which had taken root at an already gnawed leftover bones. There wasn't much flesh on that rotting corpse. Above it, 7 bizarre flowers had taken root. Zhong took a glance at Yu Zhong. Gritting her teeth, she bit and broke her finger. After that, she tore off a small yellow flower above that skeleton and chewed it to extract its juice. She smeared the juice over her finger, and her bitten and broken finger stretched out before Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong took a careful look and saw that Zhong Yi's self-inflicted wound rapidly healed up. The healing speed was far beyond that of any known medicines. Yu Zhong looked at Zhong Yi with an odd look. "Well done. I can provide you and your sister with official team member position. As long as you don't violate my rules, you sisters will be able to have dignity and live nicely within my sphere of power. Nobody can bully you. Only that this matter with the plant should be a highly classified information. If you leak even a word of it, I won't be polite with you and your sister. Is that clear?" Zhong Yi's heart relaxed. Leaning on a huge rock, she expressed her thanks to Yu Zhong. "Many thanks, Captain Yu." Zhong Yi told this secret to Yu Zhong because apart from showing gratitude to Yu Zhong, she was also taking careful consideration. She wanted to move about freely with Yu Zhong's influence. At this Z age, this kind of magical plant for her was of little use, but to those evolvers, it was of extreme importance. Yu Zhong faced toward his 4 direct subordinates, as well as Guayu, Lu Wan, and said, "This plant matter. No one is allowed to speak even a word about it." "Yes." Yu Zhong's 4 subordinates all respectfully replied. Yu Zhong faced Guayu and spoke. This kind of flowers are called life-saving flowers. After recovering the village, you'll bring people to gather information about this life-saving flower and report back to me." Guayu faced Yu Zhong and with a sweet smile said, "Yes, Master." On the side, Lu Wan looked at Yu Zhong and Guayu being close. Her small face swelled up. Chapter 115, Fishing for Snakes. Chapter 115. Fishing for Snakes. The remaining scattered zombies outside of Stone Horse Village were killed until nightfall. Zhong found over 200 survivors in the process of clearing out Stone Horse Village, replenishing their population. Zhong's sphere of influence increased to 500 survivors. The majority of survivors found were so starved they didn't look human. Recovering Stone Horse Village, each of Zhong's small squadrons experienced a trial by fire, and they began to change into elite troops. At night, Zhong took inventory of his goods attained today after taking a bath. Several equipment dropped by the God and Devil World system was recovered by Zhong. Then he started to distribute it. In the battle of recovering Stone Horse Village, Zhong received 6 skill books, 30 white treasure boxes, and a green treasure box. The 6 skill books were Rank 1 Fireball Skill Book, 3 Rank 1 Acceleration Skill Books, Rank 2 Language Mastery Skill Book, and Rank 3 Gravity Control Skill Book. Rank 1 Skill Acceleration. This skill consumes 5 points of stamina. After using this skill, one will attain 10 agility for 30 seconds. Rank 2 Skill Language Mastery. This is a passive skill. After studying, one will automatically be proficient in 3 national languages and proficiently master their written languages. Rank 3 Skill Gravity Control. This is an active skill. After using the skill, one can manipulate a single target within 200 meters or targets within the surrounding 10 meters. The amount of gravity pressure received by the target depends on the user's level of spirit, power, stamina, and asterisk level. Releasing the skill consumes 10 points of stamina and 10 points of spirit. The skill also consumes 1 stamina and 1 spirit each second. Zhong looked at the Rank 3 Gravity Control skill book that came from the L2. He contemplated a moment, then placed the book into his storage ring. Zhong held the Language Mastery skill book and thought a moment. The skill book turned into a flowing light, sinking into his sea of knowledge. What 3 languages would you like to know? As soon as the skill book entered Zhong, a voice immediately appeared in Zhong's mind. English, Russian, and Japanese. Zhong thought a moment, and strands of light interwove in his sea of knowledge, condensing into a mysterious rune. Zhong felt a huge amount of knowledge rush forth into his brain as soon as the rune formed. Then in a moment it rested. Massaging his head, Zhong opened the treasure boxes, starting with the white boxes. The 30 white treasure boxes were quickly opened. Inside there were 4 imitation Tang swords, a pair of strength shoes, and a pair of power gloves. The rest were all empty. Zhong looked at the 30 white treasure boxes dropping so few equipment and thought a moment. Luck is very important when opening white treasure boxes. Fortunately, I found 4 imitation Tang swords, so it's not too bad. Zhong finally opened the green treasure box. A green light flashed, and a pair of leather boots flashing with a bronze-colored light appeared before his eyes. Rank 3 item, Green Acceleration Boots. Increases agility by 10 after equipping. Such a treasure. Zhong's eyes flashed with joy as he looked at the green acceleration boots. Putting on the leather boots was like starting up the Rank 1 acceleration skill. A good piece of equipment can enormously increase a person's strength. Zhong is extremely clear about this. After putting those items into a bag, Zhong finally hugged the savory guayu and went to sleep. The second day, Zhong dispatched personnel to continue clearing out Stone Horse Village, and he made Qiyang start to transport survivors from Always Bright Village. Vehicle after vehicle started transporting Always Bright Village survivors into Stone Horse Village. Zhong took several subordinates and brought them near the river by Stone Horse Village. He used chicken after chicken to try and entice a mutated river snake. Is there nothing? After spending a whole day, Zhong ran along the edge of both rivers without catching a single mutated river snake. He was a little disappointed. Just when he was pulling the cord and preparing to take people to leave, an enormous mutated river snake surged out from the tranquil waters. Its mouth was opened up towards Zhong's chicken. Zhong was overjoyed. He pulled on the cord, and brought the chicken back up onto the shore. The mutated river snake also rushed out from the water to chase its prey. It chased after the chicken, writhing its enormous body back and forth. Zhong looked at Guang and Lu Wan when the snake swam on shore within 100 meters, and he said, "Get to work." Guang and Lu Wan immediately started casting their two skills. They entered into a spell-chanting state, one using ice magic and the other using fire magic. Zhong grabbed a Type 81 rifle and started firing at the huge mutated river snake. Bullet after bullet was immediately sent flying off of the snake's skin, but the bullet's enormous force still pained the mutated river snake. The attack enraged the mutated river snake. It is the master of these waters and was now receiving provocation. Naturally, it rushed on towards Zhong in a towering rage. Zhong fired his Type 81 rifle at the mutated river snake and continually enticed it away from Guiyu's and Lu Wan's position. The mutated river snake's speed was enormously fast, and it quickly caught up to Zhong. At this time, Guiyu and Lu Wan's magic spells formed. A ball of fire and an ice cone shot out, heavily exploding onto the mutated river snake's body. Magic's power is extremely enormous. Even though they were two level 1 skills, they still created a fist-sized black, scorched bloody hole, and a fist-sized bloody hole full of ice crumbles on the snake's body. The mutated river snake emitted an enormous wail. It turned its head towards Guiyu and Lu Wan. Its eyes filled with anger, and it twisted towards the two. At that time, Zhong activated the skill Shadow Step. His speed suddenly soared. He rushed before the mutated river snake and used the stinger to fire 3 shots at it. 3 bullets boomed into the snake's body, blowing open another 3 fist-sized holes. After eating the pain, it actually turned towards the water to swim away. Zhong's speed soared, and he appeared before the mutated river snake in a couple of flashes. It immediately opened its huge mouth to bite at Zhong. Zhong slightly shifted and started the skill Devil Flame. A scarlet-red magic fire condensed in his hand. He cut into the huge snake's flank with his right hand. He created an enormous scar on that side of the snake, totally burning everything he touched away. Zhong rushed along the side of the mutated river snake, completely splitting open that side of the body. A huge amount of blood flowed out from the wound. Receiving such heavy damage, the mutated river snake painfully struggled, collapsing paralyzed on the ground. A large experience orb sunk into Zhong's body. Congratulations, you have leveled up to 26. You have obtained 2 stat points. A pleasing to the ear level up noise immediately appeared in Zhong's sea of knowledge. Chapter 116 Green Feather Eagle. Chapter 116 Green Feather Eagle. Strengthen 1 point of agility, 1 point of stamina. Zhong quickly made a choice and picked up the skill book and life coins dropped by that mutated snake. Rank 3 skill, Tamer Technique. This is a knight active skill. Knights don't receive skill quantity restrictions for this skill, and they may learn this skill when attacking and defeating an intelligent creature by only using strength and no weapons. Activating the skill will have a certain probability of subduing the target. Launching the skill uses 10 points of stamina and 10 points of spirit force. Zhong concentrated and directly learned the rank 3 skill. Finished with everything, Zhong opened up the mutated river snake's body, and he began searching around inside. Careful, big brother master. Zhong heard Guiyu's and Lu Wan's and anxious cries as soon as he found the red bead. Zhong's heart shivered cold with fear. An extremely dangerous feeling bubbled up in his heart. He activated the combined body skill. White bones turned into rays of light sinking into his body, and it formed into a solid bone armor. In the sky, an enormous 30-meter wingspan bird with green metal luster feathers dove through the sky at a terrifying speed, appearing above Zhong. Its claws sunk into the mutated river snake's body. One claw pierced all the way through Zhong's bone armor, the snake armor, and the rank 3 defensive cloth into his right chest. It pierced all the way through the mutated river snake's body. Zhong felt a burst of severe pain and spit out a mouthful of blood. Level 46 Mutated Green Feather Eagle. A terrifying beast known for its speed. Zhong saw the piece of information and was instantly lifted up into the air by the green feather eagle. Big Brother Master. Guiyu and Liu both shouted when they saw Zhong grabbed by the green feather eagle. Only they were powerless to rescue him. The green feather eagle grabbed Zhong, and flapping its wings, it quickly took flight. Zhong felt the ear-piercing wind. He was resisting with great difficulty the pain which was running through his body. He tightly held onto the mutated river snake's body, not daring to make the slightest strange movement. Even though he had leveled up several times, in case that green feather eagle dropped him, he would still die from a couple hundred meters fall. The green feather eagle flew Zhong and the mutated river snake corpse to a nest located in the mountains 400 meters up behind Stonehorse Village. It tossed Zhong and the river snake into the bird's nest. There were all kinds of mutated beast bones and corpses in the nest. Inside, there were 5 mutated river snake corpses that hadn't yet rotted and a small green feather eagle that still hadn't become an adult. Laven 26 Young Green Feather Eagle. Zhong took a look at that little eagle, and a piece of information immediately entered into his mind. After the green feather eagle released Zhong and the mutated river snake into the nest, it once again flapped its wings and flew far away. The amount of food this high-level mutated beast needs to eat every day was astonishing. Because of this, the adult eagle went to go stockpile food whenever it had time to prepare for any possibility. Zhong and the snake corpse heavily landed on the ground as they were dropped from up in the sky. A burst of severe pain passed from the wound of the claw. Blood continually flowed out, and the severe pain almost made him faint. Zhong quickly withdrew a large life-saving flower from his storage ring. He put it in his mouth and chewed a moment, and then he spat and rubbed the liquid all over the huge wound. Finished with everything, Zhong was finally able to take care of the small red bead that was covered in snake blood, and he swallowed down the blood-red bead. As soon as he swallowed the small blood-red bead, immediately a heat spread through his body, strengthening it. You received 7 vitality and 1 strength. A notice sounded in his sea of knowledge after the effects wore off. The effect weakens. Zhong's brows slightly wrinkled as he thought. At this time, the green feather eagle, who didn't quite have all of its feathers yet, waddled over. It took a look at Zhong inside the mutated river snake corpse. Its eyes flashed a fierce light, and it used its beak that could pierce through steel to peck at Zhong. Bastard! A cold light flashed in Zhong's eyes. His figure flickered, avoiding the certain death poke of the young green feather eagle. The young green feather eagle easily pierced through the bulletproof skin of the mutated river snake. Zhong looked at the green feather, and his heart gasped. He directly charged towards the young eagle. The young green feather eagle had a wingspan approaching 5 meters. In a couple quick movements, Zhong jumped onto the back of the young eagle. The right side of the white bones armor quickly held the eagle in place. Then he took his left fist and pounded on the young green feather eagle's skull. The strength that far exceeded a normal person exploded downward, and the eagle was knocked dizzy. It started to frantically struggle with one of its immature wings. Zhong immediately started to feel a violent shaking as soon as the eagle started to struggle. The wound, which hadn't completely healed yet, ripped back open and flowed out blood. Damn, it's best not to kill it. Zhong strode on the back of the eagle and used all his strength to attack the bird's skull. At the same time, his heart filled up with traces of murderous intent because the pain from his right chest was severe. Each blow boomed onto the eagle. If he couldn't capture this young eagle, then it would be best to use the stinger and blow a hole in its brains. Just as Zhong prepared to draw out the stinger, his fist boomed one more time onto the eagle's skull. Finally, it was knocked senseless, powerlessly collapsing to the ground. Zhong finally relaxed a breath, looking at the young eagle collapsed on the ground. He jumped down from its body and launched the tame skill towards the senseless eagle. A green-colored light shot out from between Zhong's brows and landed on the head of the young eagle, condensing into a green-colored rune. As soon as the green rune appeared, the originally knocked-out eagle immediately struggled up, and at the same time it opened its eyes and closely stared at Zhong. Defeated, Zhong looked at the young bird that struggled up. His heart clenched, his hand flitted, and a stinger appeared in his right hand. Chapter 117, Taming Greenie. Chapter 117, Taming Greenie. That green-colored seal flashed between the eyebrows of that young green feather eagle. That young green feather eagle's terrifying gaze towards Zhong became gentle. At last, that green-colored rune went inside the mind of the young green feather eagle and disappeared. That young eagle's I revealed complete allegiance to Zhong. After that green rune entered the young eagle's mind, Zhong issued out an order to that young eagle, step aside. That tamer's technique could tame living creatures, and those creatures would attach the most importance to the one who used that technique. Receiving Zhong's command, that young eagle stepped aside. Zhong breathed a sigh of relief. Only now did he relax. He could feel the burning pain in his right chest. Even though the life-saving plant was suppressing it, from time to time, blood still flowed out. Just now, the fight with that young eagle had caused his injury to further worsen. Zhong once again clenched his teeth and took out some painkillers from within his storage ring and swallowed them. He took out some life-saving plants and spit its juice on the wound. Done all this, Zhong turned his head towards those 5 mutated snakes' corpses. Resisting the nausea, from within those 5 mutated snakes' corpses, he took out 5 blood essence red small beads. Zhong took out a bottle of mineral water from his storage ring and washed those 5 blood essence clean and then swallowed all of them. Soon after those 5 blood essence entered his stomach, they turned into surging flow of energy and merged with Zhong's body, strengthening the body. You have obtained 18 points of vitality, 3 points of strength. As soon as the heat disappeared, a sweet prompt arrived in Zhong's sea of knowledge. That prompt had just faded. Zhong felt his right wound, chest itching and tingling. His injury, under the help of life-saving plant and his own large vitality, began to heal rapidly. Zhong selected a clean area to sit down and started panting and gasping while pondering the next course of action. This place is not good for staying. Must immediately leave. Otherwise, if that green feather eagle returns, then I will undoubtedly die. Zhong rested a moment and looked at that still calm and standing on his side, the young green feather eagle. From today onward, you shall be called Greenie. Because the young green eagle is green-colored, Zhong casually decided to name it Greenie. He didn't have many ideas for a name. The young green eagle expressionlessly stared at Zhong without showing any special opposition. He rested a moment, and white bones separated from his body. White bones looked at the nest filled with animal bones. A sharp bone spike shot into one of the mutated beast corpses, and it activated bone exploitation skill. The bones of the mutated beasts in the nest were completely absorbed into White Bone's body. After absorbing several bones within the nest, White Bone's body immediately condensed piece by piece into an unmatched solid bone armor. At the same time, there was a layer of dull black metal luster like steel. Your summoned special skeleton bone, White Bones, strength degree 20. The bone armor model in Zhong's Sea of Knowledge made this type of announcement. TLN, I believe this is referring to White Bone's number 2 skill, bone strengthening. It is not a strength stat increase of 20. Absorbing the mutated beast bones, White Bones walked over to Zhong's side. It took its hand and pressed into Zhong's wound. White Bones activated bone control skill. It forced into and combined with the cracked bone in Zhong's wound. Zhong ate a vitality apple, rested a moment, and then went before the 6 mutated river snake corpses. He activated Devil Flame and placed all of their skins in a storage ring. The mutated river snake skin is the best bulletproof material. Zhong tested this in the past. He used rounds below 12, 7mm, as well as all kinds of guns, and they were all unable to pierce the skin at a range of 20 meters. Only the 12, 7mm round heavy machine gun could pierce through it. The mutated river snake skin didn't lose out to his level 3 defensive clothes after being turned into armor. Only it didn't have the level 3 defensive clothes as additional stats. These 6 mutated river snake skins were a small fortune to Zhong. He could upgrade his subordinate's defensive ability several levels after it was turned into armor. Zhong searched around the nest, but he didn't find any additional treasure. He finally said to the young green eagle tamed by him, "Let's go, Greenie." Zhong turned to White Bones and commanded, "Make a bridge allowing me to go down." A spirit flame flashed in the eyes of White Bones. He extended out a hand, and bone spike after bone spike shot out of his right arm. The spikes wounded their way into the mountain below. Strip after strip of bone spike shot into the mountain from White Bones' body, and it formed into a bone ladder. Zhong jumped down from the nest, and he climbed down, moving along the bone spike ladder. The green eagle, tamed by Zhong, was also extremely intelligent. It jumped down along the bone bridge made by White Bones. Zhong and Small Green each descended down the ladder. One of the bone spikes then retracted into the body of White Bones, and then it once again shot out into the cliff wall. They advanced forward like this. Zhong and Small Green were able to descend down the 100-meter-high bird nest in a short amount of time. Then they quickly entered into the dense forest running far away. Zhong was snatched by a huge eagle. "Quickly go find him," Luwen anxiously said. She had rushed into Stone Horse Village and found Zhong in command. Guiyu also followed behind Luwen. Her big, beautiful eyes had anxiety written all over them. Zhong's brows wrinkled. He said to Luwen, "Explain what happened." Luwen told the whole story of Zhong being snatched away by the eagle to Zhong. She begged Zhong, quickly take people to rescue Zhong. I'm begging you." Zhong, who had assumed office and had continuously fought battles, is accepted number 2 evolver under Zhong. Zhong was silent a moment, then slowly said at last, "No, I can't leave this place." Luwen's eyes flashed with disbelief. Both angry and worried, she said, "Why? Aren't you the most sworn follower of Zhong? Why aren't you going to rescue him?" Zhong coldly said, "Zhong handed this place over to me so that I could maintain peace and order. If I left at this time, then the peace and stability could possibly turn into chaos. Zhong wouldn't wish for me to take people out to search for him. Furthermore, we don't have a clue where he is. Where do you want me to go to find him?" Chapter 118, Small Village. Chapter 118, Small Village. Zhong's temper was cool and steady. Zhong being snatched by the green eagle made him anxious, but he could still calmly analyze the situation. He would do anything that was within his power to do. Luwen rushed outside worried. "You aren't going to find him. I will go myself." Luwen is young, and her temper is somewhat impulsive. Zhong is who she recognizes, and she's going to bring people to find her man. Zhong's brows wrinkled. He commanded in a deep voice, "Zhong Jing and Lei Yi, stop her." The 2 security guards at Zhong's side went forward to block Luwen's path. Luwen stared, and she scolded at the 2 security guards. "Step out of the way." Luwen was equivalent to a half-mistress in Zhong's group. No one dared be discourteous to her wherever she went. Apart from Zhong and Zhong, very few people would dare defy her desires. Lei didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said to Luwen, "Miss Lu, sympathize with us. We are only following orders." Zhong is the direct supervisor of Lei, Yi, and Zhong Jing. The 2 must obey Zhong's commands. The only other person who can give them direct orders is Zhong. No one else has direct command authority over them. Luwen turned and looked at Zhong. She shouted with her face full of fury, Qiyang, what are you doing? Qiyang commanded. Lu Wen, my mission is to protect Stone Horse Village, maintain smooth operations, and provide safety for you and Guayu. You don't have the strength to protect yourself. You would only die in vain if you went by yourself to seek Yu Zhong. Lei Yi and Zhong Jing, take Lu Wen and Guiyu back home to rest. Don't allow them to easily escape without the command of Yu Zhong or myself. Lei respectfully said to Lu Wen and Guiyu, please, young missus. Guiyu pulled Lu Wen's clothes and softly advised, sister, let's go. Qiyang is well-intentioned. We don't want to make it harder for them. Lu Wen fumed at Qiyang, then finally followed Lei Yi and Zhong Jing out. Lu Wen understood everything Qiyang said, but she was still somewhat angry. Qiyang sent people to call over Lu Yin after Lu Wen left. Qiyang, what did you seek me for? Lu Yin asked a little cautiously. Although Qiyang is the same rank as other people, he is still the number 2 man under Yu Zhong. Qiyang could exercise Yu Zhong's authority whenever he wasn't around. Qiyang said, take your men to the west and search for Captain Yu Zhong. Take an IFV with you. If you find any news on Captain Yu Zhong, or if there is anything you cannot cope with, then send someone to inform me. The IFV is the most powerful weapon under the control of Yu Zhong. The ZPT-90 25mm round cannon is the most powerful gun in Stone Horse Village. The bullet and knife-proof mutated river snake armor could be torn apart by the ZPT-90 cannon. Lu Yin nodded and left. Qiyang rubbed his temples, watching Lu Yin leave. He anxiously thought, Yu Zhong, I hope you're safe and sound. Qiyang also wanted to personally search for Yu Zhong, but he was inseparable from the operations at Stone Horse Village. This was the crucial time for always Bright Village survivors to enter Stone Horse Village. There could be no disorder. Qiyang taking over let Yu Zhong be relieved of various heavy responsibilities. He could take people to resolve the mutated river snake problem of the 2 rivers outside of Stone Horse Village. Yu Zhong, White Bones, and Small Green quickly moved along through the dense forest after leaving the bird nest. The green feather eagle is different from ordinary birds. Because Small Green is a young bird, it cannot fly, but it uses its 2 legs to walk along the ground like a penguin. Yu Zhong strode through the dense forest. Given that the life-saving flower juice couldn't completely heal the wound, if he were an ordinary person receiving that kind of wound, they wouldn't be able to walk. It felt as painful as being hit by multiple bullets. Yu Zhong's vitality far exceeded a normal person's. With the strengthening of his body and the life-saving flower juice, his wound was kept within check without worsening. But he felt severe pain in his chest with every step. He could also taste traces of blood in his throat every time he breathed. Yu Zhong walked and bitterly thought, truly bad luck. I finally understand the story of the Mermaid Princess. Suddenly, there was a gunshot in the forest. Yu Zhong's heart filled with happiness, and he quickly went in that direction. There's people. Yu Zhong wasn't the least bit familiar with that area of the forest. It was very hard to navigate without someone familiar in the area leading him. But when Yu Zhong arrived at the location of the gunshot, he only saw 5 human corpses. 6 mutated monkeys were crawling all over their bodies, gorging on their flesh. Yu Zhong saw the 6 monkeys gnawing on the corpses, and his eyes flashed with murderous intent. He commanded to White Bones, kill them. White Bones shot forward like an arrow, rushing into the group of monkeys. The eyes of the 6 monkeys flashed with a fierce light after seeing White Bones, and they rushed towards it. White Bones waved his axe and split open a monkey's body, chopping it to the waist. The 5 remaining monkeys took the opportunity to attack the flank of White Bones. They used their sharp claws to slash at White Bones, but they were unable to make a scratch. During the time the monkeys attacked at White Bones, its body began to shoot out bone spike after bone spike that pierced through the 5 monkeys. The 5 monkeys had extreme vitality. They still didn't die, even though they were pierced through by White Bones. They actually struggled for their lives on the spikes of White Bones. Greenie stood beside Yu Zhong watching the situation. It then flapped its wings and rushed over to the 5 monkeys. Greenie pecked like lightning at the heads of the mutated monkeys. Their skulls were pierced through one by one. Then it quickly began to feast. The 6 monkeys dropped a white treasure box and a couple dozen life coins. Apart from this, there were no other drops. The white treasure box ended up being empty. Zhong shook his head and then carefully looked around a moment. He found a little trail of blood and walked that direction. White Bones and Greenie closely followed behind. Following the blood trail, Zhong and his companions found a little village nested in the mountains. "Halt! Who are you?" Zhong and the others had just approached a little village. 2 survivors, one holding a homemade crossbow and the other holding a large knife, appeared before Zhong. Chapter 119, Old Family Village. Chapter 119, Old Family Village. Zhong looked at the villager holding the large knife and the villager holding the homemade crossbow, and he said in a deep voice, "I came to ask directions. Bring out the leader of your village." Everyone is extremely wary in ZH. Zhong also knew his presence would make the people guarded. The villager holding the homemade crossbow looked at Small Green standing beside Zhong. He hesitantly said, "You aren't welcome here. Please leave." If it wasn't for Small Green standing beside Zhong, that villager might not be so nice. He would simply tell Zhong to scram. The other villager, holding the large knife, curiously sized up Zhong. His vision fell onto Small Green, and he couldn't look away. He had never seen a person able to tame a monster of such unmatched strength. Zhong looked at the 2 survivors, his brows wrinkled. He didn't wish to argue with the villagers. He commanded to White Bones, "Grab them up." The spirit flames ignited in the eyes of White Bones, and he galloped over to the 2 villagers. Seeing White Bones rush over, the villager holding the crossbow became startled. He turned and pulled the trigger at White Bones, and the bolt darted towards White Bones like lightning. White Bones gazed upon the incoming bolt, and it easily stopped it with the axe, knocking the bolt flying. How severe! Seeing White Bones knock away the flying arrow, the eyes of villager holding the crossbow flashed with fear. He tossed aside the crossbow and pulled out a machete from his back. White Bones quickly rushed into the 2 survivors. He appeared before the crossbow survivor like a demon shadow. A knife hand chopped at the survivor's neck, knocking him out. The villager holding the large knife chopped at White Bones. White Bones waved his axe, knocking against the villager's knife. The knife was easily sent flying. Then a fist boomed into the side of the villager, making the villager curl up into a ball on the ground. The sounds alarmed the survivors inside the village. Quickly, over 20 male villagers holding knives, guns, clubs, and other weapons rushed forth from the village and faced off against Zhong from far away. Under the watch of the 20-plus male survivors, Zhong brought Small Green into the village. With an overwhelming, imposing manner, he looked at the survivors and said, "Who is the leader of this village? Make him come out and see me." The 20-plus men were intimidated by Zhong's mighty presence. Unexpectedly, not a single person dared speak. There was a man with several white hairs on his head and a large mole on his right cheek. He was a little old man, and he split apart the crowd and walked directly to Zhong. He said slightly respectfully, "I am Village Chief Ning. I am the person who handles matters for the village. May I ask, who are you? Why have you come to our village?" Ning already saw Small Green standing by Zhong's side as he was walking out of the crowd. He knew the person before him wasn't someone this small village could provoke. Zhong looked at Ning and directly asked, "I came to ask directions. What is this place? I want to go to Stone Horse Village and Always Bright Village. How do I get to these places?" "So long as you send a person to guide me to Stone Horse Village, this bag of rice will be that person's reward." Zhong pulled a bag from his backpack and opened it up, revealing the rice inside. He then threw it on the ground. The greatest treasure to ordinary people in Z-Age isn't gold or diamonds, but rather food that can fill one's stomach. Seeing the bag of white rice on the ground, the eyes of the villagers all turned green. They could almost not live on due to the food problem, and they didn't dare brave death hunting in mountains. "I know how to go to Stone Horse Village." I will guide you. I know. Let me guide you. The villagers immediately began to compete with each other upon seeing the bag of rice. The bag had approximately 10 kilograms of rice. If eaten frugally and used for gruel, that bag of rice could let a small family live for 1 month. Seeing the villagers one by one fight with each other, Chun Ning's face sank, and he yelled, "Give me some quiet." Chun Ning had the respect to the villagers. The villagers all temporarily quieted down, but they all still fervently stared at Chun Ning. They all wanted to obtain the job of guiding Zhong. Chun Ning looked at Zhong and invited, "It is getting late. Brother Zhong, it would be better to rest a bit in our village. Tomorrow I will make people guide you." That is bothersome. Zhong wasn't polite. He directly brought White Bones and Small Green into the village. This village certainly wasn't big, and it wasn't as lively as Always Bright Village. There were barely 40 households, and the large majority were old brick houses. After calling off the alarm, the woman and the children of the village finally came out of their houses. They curiously looked at Zhong and the companions at his side. After White Bones had the feigned skill, if it didn't shoot bone spikes, ordinary people just thought it resembled a silent, weird human. Yet Small Green attracted a large amount of attention from the men and women. Even if it was just a young green eagle, it already revealed a fierce attitude. None of the people dared lightly draw near. Zhong looked around. He discovered the women and children didn't show any signs of mistreatment, and he couldn't help but have a much more favorable opinion towards Chun Ning. One should know much of the darkness hidden in mankind's heart exploded out after his age. Chun Ning is kind to the women and children, which is a rarity in ZH. Chun Ning is the village chief, and the place he lived in wasn't bad. It was a spacious courtyard of 5 small buildings. There was a large bowl of gruel, a dish of fried peanuts, and 4 sweet potatoes placed on a table in the building. On the table in the courtyard, there was also a large bowl of gruel, but the consistency wasn't as thick as the gruel in the house. Zhong and Chun Ning's 2 sons, Chun Sheng and Chun Wang, sat at the large table in the house. 8 young and old women sat around the large table in the courtyard. Chun Ning said to Zhong, "We only have this food here. I'm a bad host. Please forgive me. Eat as you please. Don't be polite." Zhong looked at the dishes on the table. He grabbed 2 cans of beef from his backpack and opened them. He placed them on the table and laughed. "Come, eat as you please." Chun Sheng and Chun Wang saw the 2 cans of beef, and their eyes both were a little green. They hadn't eaten meat for several weeks. They couldn't handle the sight. They reached out their chopsticks, and they were ready to risk their lives stuffing their mouths. Chapter 120, Probe. Chapter 120, Probe. Chun Ning looked at his 2 sons wolf down the food. His brows wrinkled. 2 little bastards, eat slower. The eyes of the women surrounding the large table in the courtyard all fell upon the 2 cans of beef. Things to replenish nutrients were completely given to the men in order to fight and hunt. They could only eat some gruel and scratch out a meager existence. They already hadn't eaten meat for a long time. But the Chun family women and children knew some of the families in the village don't even have gruel to eat. They have started to eat grass and tree bark. Some even asked their daughter-in-laws to sleep with men for some food. The Chun family women didn't have too many complaints because of this. To be able to eat maize gruel in ZH is not bad. The land in the Chun family village is poor and barren. Several families are hunters. The main income is poaching wild animals in the mountain and then selling them privately. Each family doesn't have much food storage. 1/3 of the people changed to zombies after the world changed. But the villagers rallied under the command of Chun Ning. They completely wiped out the mutated villagers and buried them. Zhong ate several mouthfuls of maize gruel and fried peanuts to show his gratitude, and then he laid down his chopsticks. He had a large amount of all kinds of food in his storage ring. He was completely uninterested in filling his stomach with the maize gruel. Chun Ning saw Zhong stop eating after eating several pieces of beef. He also set down his chopsticks and slowly said to Zhong, "Little brother Zhong, to get from our village to Stone Horse Village, one must pass through the Zhong family village and the Mudfish Ravine. Zhong family village isn't like our village. There are man-eating demons everywhere there. Isn't a good place to cross." Zhong downplayed the situation. "No problem. Your people only needs a guide. I will take care of the man-eating demons in Zhong family village." The number of zombies that have died at Zhong's hand is nearly 1,000. Furthermore, Zhong has already decided to only rely on his own strength to cut a path into the world. He carries a prestigious position that holds the lives of hundreds of people in his hands, and his words carry formidable confidence. Ning looked at Zhong and couldn't help but believe his words. Ning hesitated a moment. He asked a little expectantly, "Little brother Zhong, why are you in such a rush to return to Stone Horse Village?" Zhong intentionally or otherwise said, "I established a survivor base in Stone Horse Village. I have hundreds of people there. I naturally can't be away for too long. There were over 20 capable men here in Chun family village. If he could absorb them, then Zhong's power could increase a large amount. But if you don't have the muscle, other people won't rely on you." Hearing Zhong's words, Ning looked at Zhong and his view changed. So Zhong is the boss of the base. Truly a young hero. Amazing. Truly amazing. Zhong plainly said, "Oh, you are flattering me." From then on, Ning started beating around the bush on the Stone Horse Village survivor base situation and policies. Zhong started to explain the situation and policies in Stone Horse Village one by one. Ning thought a moment, and he asked a probing question. "Brother Zhong, if I brought all my villagers to seek refuge, how would you treat me?" The food quantity was already extremely tight in the Chun family village. Ning could only eat maize gruel as the village chief. Don't even think about others. Chun family village is close to the mountain, but that mountain has too many mutated beasts. Ordinary people without firepower are extremely weak in front of those mutated beasts. Today, they organized a group of 12 men to brave the mountain, but unfortunately, they ran into mutated monkeys. 5 of the 12 died, and 2 were seriously injured, crippling the small population of this village. The dangers of these mutated beasts to the hunters is very clear. They had encountered these terrifyingly powerful mutated beasts when hunting once in the past. If it wasn't for having no other choice, the Chun family villagers wouldn't think to go hunting in the mountains. It would be a problem for the Chun family village's food supply to last for another week. Ning's food supply could last another 2 weeks for his family if they conservatively ate even less. Ning already didn't have any options and thought to rely on Zhong. They are cornered in reality. The villagers wouldn't look upon the food Zhong had with green eyes if the village had food, and they wouldn't fight over each other to be Zhong's guide. Zhong duly said, "If you can bring the whole village into my group and organize a small fighting unit, I will make you and your 2 sons preliminary team members. If you achieve merits in battle, you can promote into an official team member. Your wives and children can enjoy outside member benefits. I can guarantee none of the villagers will starve to death. If they want to achieve any kind of treatment, then their performance will need to be looked at." The fact that Zhong wasn't too fervent, and he didn't promise Ning an extremely high position, made Ning even more relaxed. Ning would be suspicious if Zhong promised him an extremely high position. A young fellow rushed into the courtyard at this time. He said to Ning with a face of sorrow, Uncle, quick come look. Uncle sure too cannot stand up. Do you have medicine?" Ning isn't only the mayor, he also knows a little bit about ancient medicine, so he is also the village doctor. Ning apologized to Zhong, seeing the youngster rush in. "Sorry, I need to go take a look. I will go with you." Zhong followed Ning out. Inside a crude brick house, a middle-aged man was lying in the bed. He was struggling in endless pain. On his stomach, there was a long gash, and blood continuously flowed out of the enormous wound. A good-looking young woman was whispering in a low voice and using a towel to wipe the sweat of the man. A beautiful young 14 or 15-year-old girl stood to the side at a loss, looking at her father on the bed. The man on the bed used his broad shoulders and powerful hands to be the best hunter in the village. He used his hands and shoulders to protect his wife and daughter. He let them be much better off than the others in the village. If the man on the bed died, his wife and daughter truly didn't know how they would be able to continue living in the cruel age. The beautiful young girl looked at Zhong and Ning walk into the room. She kneeled before Ning, begging with huge tears in her eyes. "Uncle, I beg you. I'm begging you, save Shirtu. I'm begging you. I will do anything if only you save him." Chapter 121, Attendant. Chapter 121, Attendant. Ning looked at the beautiful young woman kneeling before him and said, "Zhong Su, get up. I want to take a look at Shida's status. Being on your knees isn't helping." Zhong Su immediately stood up, hearing Ning's words, and she awaited Ning. Ning walked over to Shirtu before the eyes of everyone. His brows tightly wrinkled after carefully looking over Shida's body. He hesitated a moment and then slowly shook his head. His wound is too serious. The opening is too deep. If there was a specialized doctor that could perform an operation, perhaps he could live. Otherwise, his only road is death. You can only grieve. Zhong Su's eyes flashed with desperation. Again, she kneeled before Ning and painfully begged, "Not possible. Shirtu can't die. I'm begging you. Uncle, I'm begging you to save Shirtu. I'm begging you to save Shirtu. I will do anything." The young girl standing beside Zhong Su also kneeled before Ning and begged, "Mayor, I'm begging you, save my dad. I'm sorry. His wound, I don't have the ability." Ning shook his head. Even before Zage, Ning would have no way to cure Shida's wound. Don't even mention the lack of medicine after Zage started. Zhong Su and her daughter Chen Miao heard what was said and couldn't help but let the tears come out. The house filled with a hopeless atmosphere. For this family, their backbone dying means the family is faced with ruin. Zhong Su and Chen Miao are the two beauties of the village. Several men covet them, but they are protected by the number one hunter Shirtu, making those men not dare cause trouble. If Shirtu dies, there will absolutely be several men who come around. Even if they don't use force, in order to keep living, Zhong Su and Chen Miao can only give up their bodies. "Let me try." A voice passed over from the side, and it attracted everyone's vision. Zhong Su and Chen Miao both looked upon Zhong. They saw a thread of hope in their despair. Zhong walked over and carefully inspected Shirtu while being watched by the hopeful eyes of Zhong Su and Chen Miao. He discovered Shirtu only had a fatal wound on his stomach. The other wounds weren't too serious. Zhong Su and Chen Miao both walked over to Zhong's side and nervously looked at Zhong's expression. Zhong said to Chen Miao, "Go grab a bowl of warm water that has been boiled." Chen Miao immediately went to the kitchen without saying a word. Zhong Su asked a little worriedly, "Doctor, did my husband save Abel?" Zhong turned and duly said, "I don't know. I only have a 50% certainty. But if I don't try and save him, he will certainly die. If you don't want me to try, or you don't trust me, then say something now." Zhong Su bit her lip and said, "Save him. I'm begging you, save him. So long as you save Shirtu, however you want me, I promise to you." Zhong Su's house was already out of food. The only thing she has is her slender, graceful body. In order to save her husband, she truly would do anything. She is willing to offer her body if Zhong wants it. Her husband just has to be able to survive. Zhong looked at Zhong Su without taking notice to her and promised, "Yes." Zhong Su is truly a beautiful and graceful young woman, but there is still a large gap between her and the grand beauties like Lu Wan, Chen Yao, Ji Qingwu, and Guayu. Zhong has 20 beauties under his sphere of influence that can compare with Zhong Su, actually even above Zhong Su. Zhong didn't have any strange ideas towards her. Zhong Su's heart slightly relaxed a bit, seeing that Zhong paid no notice to her promise. And at the same time, he didn't do anything strange. After all, The large majority of men in the village wouldn't be able to resist her charm. Chun Miao quickly brought a bowl of water over. Yu Zhong grabbed 3 life-saving flowers from his bag. After breaking them down, he finally mixed it in with the water to make liquid medicine, and then he spread the medicine over the wound. He also took 2 painkillers and antibiotics pills and forced Shirtu to swallow them. Under the effects of the life-saving flower, Shidu's wound started to slowly heal while everyone watched. It no longer flowed blood. The original and unconscious and struggling Shirtu slowly recovered and settled down from the medicine. Good. I can only do to this level. Living or dying will depend on his willpower. Tomorrow I will come give more medicine, and let's go, Mayor Chun. I'm tired. Finished with everything. Yu Zhong stood up and walked over to Chun Ning. There was nothing else he could do. He would do no use staying here. Chun Ning looked at Yu Zhong at this time. His eyes filled with amazement. He never thought Yu Zhong could have carried such a magical medicine, and it added another layer of respect and fear. The complicated eyes of Zhang Su and Chun Miao watched as Yu Zhong and Chun Ning returned to the mayor's house. As soon as Yu Zhong arrived at the villa, he fell into a deep sleep. He battled the whole day, and it used up a lot, and he also suffered an extremely serious injury. He was only able to persist on due to being much stronger than ordinary people, consuming a large amount of blood-red beads and the life-saving flower medicine. White Bones and Greenie were placed in a room not far from Yu Zhong. They could hurry over in the first instance if there were any disturbances. Yu Zhong didn't sleep long. The door to his room was softly pushed open, and a figure walked over to Yu Zhong's bed. There was a rustling sound of clothes falling down, followed by a fragrant treasure entering into his bedding. He was startled awake as soon as that tender and soft body entered into his bedding. He snapped out of reflex, grabbed the throat of the soft body, and coldly said, "Who are you?" "I am Chun Miao. The mayor found me to lie down and attend on you." Chun Miao's soft body somewhat quivered in fear as she spoke to Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong finally relaxed his grip on Chun Miao's throat. He carefully sized up this bare-naked girl before him in his bed. She was wearing pigtails. Her skin was white and tender, full of elasticity, and she had a beautiful, delicate little face. Although her body wasn't as good as Lu Wen and Guayu, her development wasn't bad. Her 2 small buns filled with youthful elasticity. She is yet a tender and beautiful little miss. Yu Zhong looked at this young miss full of youth and energy, and his heart slightly shook. "Do you know what lie down and attend means?" "I know. It is to accompany you and do." Her cheeks blushed. She hesitated a moment, then bravely looked directly at Yu Zhong. Chapter 122, Man-Eating Monster. Chapter 122, Man-Eating Monster. Yu Zhong hesitated a moment and slowly said, "But I already have a woman." Although Chun Miao is very pretty and full of life, but she wasn't charming enough to make Yu Zhong go crazy. He also didn't want to get her pregnant and make her regret for a lifetime. Chun Miao heard Yu Zhong's words, and her eyes slightly darkened. But she still stared at Yu Zhong and slowly said, "No problem. Today I am voluntarily coming here to repay you, thanking you for saving my father. You saved him, so you saved our family. I don't have anything to repay you with. I only have this pure body. I want you to take it. After tonight, if you like, I will follow you and be your lover. If you don't want me, then no problem. I will quietly leave." Yu Zhong looked at Chun Miao, the beautiful young girl's words full of energy. His heart was slightly moved. This beautiful and pure young girl set his heart racing. He brought Chun Miao into his embrace, and that healthy young girl's fragrance sunk into his nose. Today Yu Zhong was able to save the person named Chun Shida's life. Chun Shirtu is the village's greatest hunter. After Ziyage, Chun Shirtu and Chun Ning both took charge in clearing out the zombies in the village. If it wasn't for Chun Shirtu, the Chun family village wouldn't have that many survivors. Chun Miao's face immediately became red in the embrace of Yu Zhong. Although she talked big, as the time came she was a little afraid and anticipating. Zhong wanted to move a little. Only with a slight movement his right chest burst in pain. His body still hadn't completely recovered. Zhong softly kissed Chun Miao's forehead, then placed her to his right side. He closed his eyes and went to sleep. Sleep. I'm tired today. Yes. Chun Miao's heart slightly relaxed, and she was somewhat disappointed as she quietly lay beside Zhong. Early in the morning the second day, Zhong brought Chun Miao to Chun Ning's living room. Chun Ning's family members looked at Chun Miao standing beside Zhong. Their eyes all carried a strange light. Chun Miao stood a little bashfully beside Zhong. In her heart, she had already slept in the same bed as Zhong, so she is Zhong's woman. Zhong pulled out 2 boxes of milk from his backpack, 2 pieces of cake, and then gave Chun Miao half under the envious and admiring eyes of Chun Ning's family. Milk and cake were already extravagant things in ZH. No one in the whole Chun family village had these things. Chun Miao drank the milk and nibbled on the cake, her face written with joy. In this type of world, being able to eat until one is full is already a desperate hope. Chun Miao had personally seen her classmates sell off their first night for a piece of corn cake. Her being able to currently eat this good of food, she doesn't know how many times happier she is than others. What about the guides? Finished eating, Zhong directly asked Chun Ning. Stonehorse Village is his base. He didn't know if the Longhai City survivor base were friends or enemies to the south, glaring upon them with envious eyes. He was extremely worried about the safety of Stonehorse Village. These are the guides. Zhong, let me give you an introduction. This is my son, Chun Wang. These other 4 are Chun Yin, Niu Chao, Zhaoxing, and Suanya. Chun Ning called over 5 people and introduced them. Chun Wang and the others are all strong young men of the Chun family village. They all carried large machetes, spears, crossbows, and other cold weapons on their backs. Zhong looked at Chun Ning and said, I know. I want you to look over Chun Miao's family. I will quickly send people to pick you up. Chun Ning called Zhong Captain Yu, naturally giving birth to the idea of placing himself into the hands of Zhong. If Zhong can return to Stonehorse Village and send people back, he will bring his people to join in with Zhong. Chun Ning said, yes. Zhong didn't have any hesitation. He took Chun Wang and the others in the direction of the Zhong family village. The ever-silent White Bones and Greenie followed at Zhong's side. Chun Miao looked at the back image of Zhong leaving. Her lips moved, yet nothing came out. Her father was still here recovering in bed. Chapter 123. Respect and Fear. Chapter 123. Respect and Fear. Receiving Zhong's command, White Bones' eyes flashed with a devil flame. Speeding forward, he rushed like a general carrying the battle flag towards the 3S1S. White Bones shot out his power from a range of 100 meters, rushing over in a few seconds. It slashed the axe, cutting the S1 at the waist. The black intestines, organs, and dirty blood spattered out onto the ground. Without stopping to rest, White Bones continued rushing forward. He dashed to the remaining 2S1S and waved his axe. Like a whirlwind, it sent the heads of the remaining 2S1S flying. Chun Wang and the others watched the massacre of the S1S by White Bones in a daze. Their eyes filled with shock and disbelief. The search party was ruined by the man-eating monsters, yet they were easily slaughtered like little chicks in the hands of White Bones. This was something they momentarily couldn't take in. Chun Wang looked at White Bones a little excited and asked Zhong, Captain Yu, who is that person? So severe. Chun Wang already knew White Bones was severe from when it took out the 2 guards of Chun family village, but he didn't think it was that awesome. Its name is White Bones. Let's go. Zhong dully said. He picked up the life coins and a white treasure box dropped by the 3S1S. Then he took large strides in a Zhong family village. The drops from the lower-level zombies became more and more rare over time. Chun Wang and the rest watched Zhong from behind even though it was somewhat terrifying, but they still followed behind. The zombies in Zhong family village all started to bubble out at this time, and they formed into a group of several hundred zombies. So many man-eating monsters. Chun Wang and the other young men momentarily passionately followed Zhong. But seeing hundreds of zombies, their expressions became unbelievably pale, and they couldn't control their legs from quivering. The oppressive power between one zombie and hundreds is completely different. That many zombies could completely tear apart Chun family village. Don't even mention that there are only 6 of them. Zhong looked towards the zombie group approaching them. He raised his gun, and the head of zombie about 70 meters away received several bloody holes. Then it powerlessly fell to the ground. White Bones turned into a fierce slaughter god. It shot into several zombies and continuously waved its axe like a whirlwind. All of the zombies engulfed by the whirlwind had their heads sent flying, or their bodies were chopped into 2 pieces. The path it rushed along gave rise to a terrifying rainfall of heads and limbs. Zhong followed behind White Bones, both his eyes undisturbed. He held a Type 54 pistol and casually fired, headshotting the zombies that wandered over one by one. Greenie's eyes flashed with a fierce light as it looked at the zombies. It flapped its wings and stomped with both legs, rushing forward. As soon as it reached the zombie group, its sharp beak pecked like lightning, easily cracking open the skull of a zombie. The zombies circled around. Greenie flapped its wings and immediately sent them flying. Although Greenie was only a young bird, but it is a mutated beast, and its fierceness is unmatched. The zombies couldn't even slash through its outer feathers. Zhong, White Bones, and Greenie were truly a ferocious group without peer. The zombies were cleared out by them as soon as they blocked the road circled around. Zhong brought Chun Wang and the others to the pile of corpses. They easily cleared out the zombies blocking the path, and they easily started to move their way out of Zhong family village. The expressions of Chun Wang and the others were excited and in a trance after leaving the Zhong family village. How could they dare believe the town defended by hundreds of zombies could be so easily pierced through by Zhong and his companions? So severe. Chun Wang looked at Zhong from behind, and his eyes flashed with worship and respect. This is the first time he had seen a fierce person like Zhong. He at first didn't accept being thrown to Zhong by his father, but now all of the disobedience completely disappeared. Zhong only pierced through the village. He didn't completely clear it out. There were still several zombies left in the village after he left. Those zombies could act as a natural protective screen, making outsiders unable to enter the Chun family village. There were 30 young and strong hunters among the dozens of people in Chun family village. After going through a little training and actual combat, they could become elite soldiers. Under the guidance of Chun Wang, Zhong passed through Mudfish Ravine. They passed through several small roads until they finally arrived at a cement road. Walking along, Zhong asked Chun Wang at his side, how far to reach Stone Horse Village? There should still be 5 kilometers. Chun Wang approximated, then said to Zhong. Zhong inspected his surroundings and then continued forward. At this time, a gunshot came from side road. Zhong's brow wrinkled. He looked in that direction and asked, what is over there? Chun Wang looked and said, that side is Big Cliff Village. Stone Horse Village isn't far past Big Cliff Village. Let's take a look. Zhong immediately walked towards the direction of the gunshot. Zhong saw a bus, a Hummer, and a Jeep struggling forward among a crowd of hundreds of zombies at the entrance to Big Cliff Village. Buses, Hummers, and Jeeps are vehicles that can easily send zombies flying. But the zombie crowd was too large. The 3 large vehicles were caught up in the swarm, and they couldn't move. There was a pile of zombies steamrolled behind them, but a large amount of zombies were still circled around, flapping their arms at the doors. The vehicles started to sway from being hit by the bodies, and their movement speed became very slow. If no one assisted, the survivors in those 3 vehicles would end up surrounded, ripped apart, and then chewed up. Zhong saw the sight. Then he said to Chun Wang and the others, you guys wait here. I'll go save them. Chun Wang and the 5 others looked at each other and then nodded. Rushing into the zombies with their strength would only be a path to death. Zhong strode towards the zombie swarm. He raised a gun after arriving within 100 meters, and then he placed a bullet between the eyebrows of a zombie. Hearing the gunshot, they sensed a person. The group surrounding the 3 vehicles immediately started to wobble towards Zhong. "Take them out," Zhong commanded to White Bones and Greenie at his side. White Bones and Greenie received the command, and they immediately rushed towards the crowd of zombies. Chapter 124. Chapter 124. White Bones and Greenie rushed into the zombie group, immediately creating a bloody flesh storm. No zombie could stop the axe of White Bones and the peck of Greenie. The slow-moving, ordinary zombies were massacred under the cooperation of the 2. The group of zombies surrounding the 3 vehicles immediately started towards White Bones and Greenie after sensing the activity. The pressure on the vehicles alleviated quite a lot. The 3 vehicles got a little wiggle room, and they immediately used the max horsepower to rush out of the zombie crowd, sending the zombies flying one after another. The 3 vehicles rushed forward without any reduction in speed. Along the way, they ruthlessly struck dozens of zombies in the process of fighting White Bones. White Bones, holding his axe, also couldn't stop the bus. He was sent flying along with 6 other zombies to the side. The Hummer also ruthlessly struck into Greenie fighting on the highway. Greenie let out a cry as it was hit by the truck, and it was sent flying to the side. Greenie, seeing the sight, Zhong's eyes both became red, and he let out a roar. Zhong never thought the people he was saving would be so ruthless. In order to flee a little faster, they unexpectedly struck and sent flying the people saving them. They didn't stop after sending Greenie and White Bones flying. The 3 vehicles hastily fled on the road, and at the same time, they ruthlessly struck out towards the center of the road where Zhong was standing. A group of scum. Zhong enraged in his heart. He raised a finger and pointed. A magic spell started, and a fireball boomed into a wheel on the bus. There was a loud explosion. The bus was knocked to the side in flames, colliding to the side of the road. The other 2 vehicles even more fiercely charged towards Zhong. Zhong's eyes flashed with a cold light. He started moving using his high-level speed, slightly shifting his body. He passed the 2 vehicles like a demon. Just in the instant those 2 vehicles approached, Zhong started his skill art of fear. An enormous, awe-inspiring spirit enshrouded everything within 10 meters. The Hummer and Jeep were absorbed in the art of fear skill, and the drivers inside lost their sense of perception out of fear, crashing into the 2 sides of the road. Zhong didn't stop to look at the survivors in the vehicles. He hastily dashed towards the direction of Greenie. 3 zombies wandered in front of Zhong, blocking his path. He pulled out an imitation Tang sword, and slash by slash he easily decapitated them. Zhong came to Greenie's side, only seeing the eyes of the young green eagle revealing a trace of pain. Greenie flapped its wings and struggled, but it couldn't stand up. The green feather eagle is an overlord of the skies. On the ground, it can only bully ordinary zombies. Greenie is also a young eagle. Its body already suffered heavy damage after being hit by the Hummer. Zhong had already leveled up to 26, but if he was hit by a Hummer, he would also receive serious injuries. Zhong grabbed the life-saving flour and water mixture from his bag and made Greenie drink it. Greenie finally calmed down after swallowing the life-saving flour medicine, but he still didn't stand up. Obviously, he suffered serious injury. On the other side, White Bones stood up from the place he flew towards like nothing happened. White Bones resumed slaughtering the surrounding zombies without the slightest bit of change. It is an organism that cannot die unless his skull is destroyed. The spirit flame within its skull has to be destroyed, otherwise it practically cannot die. Although White Bones is fierce, and it continuously beheaded zombies, by losing Greenie's important combat ability, it was still encircled by the remaining 100+ zombies. In addition, another zombie crowd of over 100 made their way towards Zhong. Looks like I will have fight for my life today. Zhong held an imitation Tang sword, and his brows slightly wrinkled. Dodging the two high-speed vehicles just now advanced his condition. Zhong's wound had a faint pain. It is hard to say how much pain high-level fighting would cause. But the last moment, he didn't wish to abandon Greenie. After Greenie grows up, it absolutely would become a trump card for Zhong. Guang and the others watched Zhong walk towards the zombie crowd. They looked at each other in disbelief. If it were dozens of zombies, they would rush to Zhong's side and fight. But the stench coming off of the rotting corpses from the 100-plus zombies brought a terrifying power that made the men too afraid to move. A strong young man about 26 or 27 rushed towards Guang and asked, "Guang, what do we do?" Guang looked at Zhong holding an imitation Tang sword, facing 100 zombies, and hesitated a moment. Although he held some respect for Zhong, he couldn't go into a crowd of zombies and risk his life for Zhong. At this time, there was a rumble of engines. An IFV and a military jeep came over to their direction. Liu Yin saw Zhong from far away from within the IFV. He excitedly yelled out, "Captain Yu! That is Captain Yu! Quick go! Quickly drive over!" Under the urgings of Liu Yin, that IFV and military jeep formed a small motorcade and rapidly sped towards Zhong. The Type 86-7 62mm machine gun madly opened fire. It formed a bullet screen that cut down zombies like a wheat harvest. Some of the bullets hit the zombies directly in the head, sending their skulls flying. 5 of Zhong's direct evolver subordinates jumped out of the IFV. They held imitation Tang swords and went after the zombies shot to the ground. As soon as they entered the zombie crowd, they fought, risking their lives to chop at the ordinary zombies. In addition to the 5 direct evolver subordinates, 5 trained soldiers that Zhong had absorbed from Longhai City also came forward. Those professional soldiers weren't the same as Zhong's evolver subordinates. They skillfully held their rifles and continuously made headshots, exploding the skulls of zombie after zombie. Those 5 subordinates and the 5 professional soldiers were the elites of the zombie killers. Adding on the combat unit to White Bones, those ordinary zombies didn't stand a chance. They were completely wiped out in a short amount of time. When the fighting finished, Liu Yin came to Zhong's side, and his eyes filled with joy. "Captain Yu, as expected, you are fine." Zhong pointed at the 3 vehicles and commanded to Liu Yin in a deep voice, "Grab those guys and bring them to me." "Yes," Liu Yin responded. He took men over to the 3 vehicles and grabbed all of them out. Blood burst out of the driver's neck. His head filled with astonishment, with extremely large eyes rolled on the ground. Seeing a living person beheaded before them, several survivors let out a shriek, especially the women. Ma Ming, that second-generation rich kid, saw the driver getting beheaded and was scared pale. A yellow liquid dripped from his jeans onto the ground. The well-tempered, elegant, beautiful woman was also scared and lost her color. A middle-aged man beside Ma Ming had a cold light flash in his eyes. He suddenly rushed towards Zhong. He was a bodyguard found by Minister Ma to protect his idiot son and a retired Special Forces soldier. He was extremely strong, and at least 20 people had died in his hands. Zhong calmly stood still, only coldly staring at the middle-aged man. White Bone's eyes flashed with a spirit flame as it stood beside Zhong. It waved an axe like a whirlwind and chopped that nimble soldier at the waist. The middle-aged man's upper and lower half separated. Blood and organs sprinkled out from the upper half. He still hadn't died, and the upper half painfully struggled in a pool of blood. Zhong raised a gun and shot a bullet through the brains of the Special Forces soldier, ending his pain. Zhong stared at the remaining 2 survivors and coldly asked, "Who made you drive into my people?" One driver was scared to incontinence and pointed at Ma Ming. He knelt before Zhong and repeatedly stuck his head against the ground, saying, "It was him." He made us drive into your people. He said he would take the responsibility after hitting the people. He is the son of a high-ranking official. We cannot disobey his commands. Don't kill me. I'm begging you, don't kill me. I only listen to commands. Ma Ming's face turned white, and he scolded, Fuck! You dare sell me out. Do you believe I won't kill you? The other driver's body quivered as he knelt before Zhong. He cried out with a big voice, Deputy Mayor Li Yuan made me hit the people. I was only listening to commands. I'm begging you, don't kill me. Don't kill me. The color of Li Yuan's face changed, and he shouted, Zhong Cheng, don't spit out slander. Li Yuan couldn't change too much at this life and death juncture. Driver Zhong Cheng wept and pointed at a frail man and said to Zhong, Zhong, Captain Zhong, it is truly what Mayor Li said. When I was driving, I asked him. He said all of the responsibility would be his. If you don't believe, you can ask Lei Jian. Lei Jian also heard. Zhong stared at the thin and weak man, and he coldly said, Is it true? If you don't speak the truth with me, then you will die together. Under the threat of death, Lei Jian's body shivered. He said with a quivering voice, It's true. Zhong Chen isn't lying. It was Mayor Li's command. I heard. Li Yuan's breath trembled. He stared at his advisors and scolded. Lei Jian, you ungrateful thing. Do you forget who helped you become promoted to director? Chapter 126, Military Camp Information. Chapter 126, Military Camp Information. Zhong coldly said, Drag those two out. For team members walked over and dragged Ma Ming and Li Yuan out like dogs. Li Yuan's face was appalled, and he angrily growled, This is treason. Counter-revolutionary. You are abusing the death penalty, opposing the government, and committing crimes against humanity. You are an enemy to the Communist Party, the government, and the people. You cannot have a good ending if you continue like this. Ma Ming's expression turned pale. Not repeating his previous arrogance, he cried out, Don't kill me. My father won't let you go. My father won't let you go. Li Yuan and Ma Ming were brought forward by the 4 personnel and pressed to the ground. Looking at Li Yuan and Ma Ming being pulled out, that beautiful and graceful woman couldn't help but glance over at an ordinary-looking middle-aged man to her side. The man's eyes constantly flashed with a light like electricity. Seeing the vision of the beautiful woman, the middle-aged man slightly and inaudibly shook his head. Even if he were elite special forces, he couldn't save Ma Ming being surrounded by so many experts. White Bones, standing at Zhong's side, made him even more unbelievably scared, given that he wasn't certain of the power of White Bones' axe. Zhong turned his head and looked at Chen Wang and the others. He tossed the Type 54 pistol in his hand over to Chen Wang. He pointed to Ma Ming and commanded, Execute him. Chen Wang grabbed the Type 54 pistol. His face turned green, and his white hand couldn't stop shaking. He had killed zombies, but he had never killed a person. Zhong stared at Chen Wang and coldly said, If you don't want to, I won't force you. In the past, I promised your father. If he throws all of his villagers in with me, I will let him form a unit. But the combat units under my command must completely follow my orders. Don't follow my command, and you cannot be combat unit members. You can be laborers. Chen Wang's heart shivered, and his hand continuously trembled. At this time, Zhaoxing shot forth like an arrow from the side. He grabbed the pistol from Chen Wang and directly pointed it at Ma Ming's head, then pulled the trigger. Don't kill me. Boom. That arrogant second-generation wealth Ma Ming got a bullet between his eyebrows, and he lifelessly fell to the ground. Zhaoxing looked at Chen Wang and yelled, Brother Chen, what are you hesitating for? These scum are all ungrateful, shameless bastards. If it wasn't for Captain Zhong, they would all be food for the man-eating monsters. Zhong saved them, and they still wanted to kill Captain Yu. These type of people are fine to kill. Zhong carefully looked at Zhaoxing. He discovered this was the person who came to Chen Ning's household in the past to ask for help saving Chen Shirtu. He walked over to Zhaoxing and clapped his shoulder. Very good. You strictly executed my command. From now on, you are the team leader of the 7th Small Unit. Zhao straightened out his chest. Even if he didn't know the weight of the 7th small team leader, but he felt extremely honored to acquire Yu Zhong's praise. Along the road, Zhao was already completely impressed by Yu Zhong's manner. Young and impulsive, he was also extremely angry at Mom Ming's group of survivors' ungrateful behavior. Yu Zhong took the pistol from Zhao hand and walked over to Li Yuan. Li Yuan looked at Yu Zhong and begged, "Don't kill me. I'm begging you, don't kill me. You are committing a crime." "Go die." Yu Zhong's vision cold. He placed the gun on top of Li Yuan's brow and opened up a bloody hole. Li Yuan's eyes were full of regret and fear. His corpse powerlessly collapsed to the ground. After dropping Li Yuan, Yu Zhong walked over to the 20-plus survivors and coldly said, "I am Yu Zhong. From now on, you are my spoils of war. The men will do hard labor. The women will wait for their arrangements." Although Yu Zhong killed the primary evil, but he didn't have any good feelings towards these survivors that he rescued. He needs to set up a survivor base in Stonehorse City, and that requires a large amount of hard labor. He planned to make these men become laborers, 1 driver beheaded, 1 person chopped at the waist, and 2 people executed by the gun. All of the survivors coldly shivered under these terrifying sights. They looked upon Yu Zhong with eyes full of fear, and they didn't dare say anything. At this time, the elegant, beautiful woman with a pleasant temperament said in a soft voice, "Wait a moment." Yu Zhong's brow wrinkled. He looked at that woman and coldly said, "Do you have a problem? Don't speak rubbish." The woman, although refined, graceful, and uncommonly beautiful, Yu Zhong had extreme loathing towards this group of ungrateful survivors, carrying over to not having any good feelings toward her. Xiaoyu directly looked at Yu Zhong and slowly said, "Hello, I am Xiaoyu. Hitting you and your companions had nothing to do with us. It was all Li Yuan and Mom Ming. Could you please give us our freedom?" Yu Zhong stared at Xiaoyu and coldly laughed. "No, you are my spoils of war. If you want freedom, give me your goods in exchange. I can let you freely depart if you give me enough guns, ammunition, food, and medicine. Otherwise, you must honestly listen and obey my arrangements." Xia Ming and these survivors didn't know the cruelty of the outside world. They wholeheartedly wanted to separate from the control of a boss like Yu Zhong. They didn't suffer the Long High City survivors' age torment. Xiaoyu pointed at her bodyguard and said, "I know the location of a military camp nearby. There should certainly be several weapons there. Can we exchange the location of that military camp for our freedom?" Yu Zhong looked at Xiaoyu, and he mockingly laughed. "You may, but that camp must be nearby. If it is the military base near Qingyuan County, then don't even mention it. The outside world is extremely cruel. Even the Long High City survivor base controlled by the government is short on goods and supplies, and people are as cheap as ants. A beautiful woman like Xiaoyu going to Long High City survivor base is like a sheep going into the mouth of a tiger." But since the counterpart wished to use a military base as exchange, Yu Zhong wished to let them leave. As far as power goes, the importance of guns, ammunition, and military equipment far exceeds that of a beautiful woman. The addresses of various military posts are secret. They are classified military secrets. They are only discovered accidentally when local people pass by. Apart from this, only high-level military members or related personnel know their locations. Yu Zhong, an ordinary city resident, basically had no clue as to the addresses of these military locations. Otherwise, he would have taken people there earlier to capture it. Each military base represented a large amount of guns and ammunition. Yu Zhong's military power could change overnight upon capturing one. Xiaoyu pointed to the west and said to Yu Zhong, "There's a military base 10 miles west. There was an infantry battalion stationed there in the past." Chapter 127, Long High City Base Guests. Chapter 127, Long High City Base Guests. Yu Zhong cut off Xiaoyu's words. "Don't say any more. First come back with us. Wait for us to find the base, and we will release you too." We will guarantee your safety and property until this happens, and we will provide the minimum living guarantees. Zhong was currently seriously hurt. Even if his body far exceeded a normal person's, he couldn't lead this group of soldiers to recover a military base. The current priority is to recover his condition. He could slowly kill hundreds of ordinary zombies if he could recover to his peak fighting strength. With the cooperation of White Bones and 5 evolvers, Greenie was able to be moved on top of a Hummer. The bus without a wheel was emptied of oil and abandoned. Apart from Xiaoyu and her bodyguard, all of the survivors could only walk under the observation of the IFE. They headed in the direction of Stone Horse Village. With a face full of worry, Lu Wen rushed into Zhong's embrace as soon as he returned to the villa. With happy tears, she sobbed, "Big brother Zhong, you are okay." Guang watched Zhong embrace Lu Wen with envy. She also wanted to rush into Zhong's embrace at the first moment, but her reason suppressed her impulses. "I'm okay. Wen, come with me." Zhong lightly patted Lu Wen's back, and he led Lu Wen out of the villa. Zhong pointed at the injured Greenie who had no vitality and said to Lu Wen, "Quickly use the minor injury healing skill to help it recover." Lu Wen curiously looked at Greenie and walked over to it. The green feather eagle is still a type of fierce, violent, overbearing, flesh-eating mutated beast. Zhong couldn't have tamed Greenie if it wasn't a young bird. Greenie was only close with Zhong. Its eyes flashed with a fierce light as soon as Lu Wen approached it. Its beak immediately pecked towards Lu Wen. Zhong keenly felt Greenie's murderous intent, and he hastily shouted, "Stop! This is one of your female masters. You must not harm her." Hearing Zhong's command, the murderous intent in Greenie's eyes departed, and it didn't start any attacks towards Lu Wen. Lu Wen cautiously walked towards Greenie's side. She started the skill minor injury healing and helped Greenie recover from its injuries. The injuries that Greenie suffered all started to quickly recover under the minor injury healing skill of Lu Wen. Its vision towards Lu Wen became softer. Although mutated beasts couldn't speak, their intelligence was 10 times greater than animals before Z age. It could differentiate who was good and bad. The natural healing ability of Greenie was originally strong due to being a mutated beast. In addition, Zhong used life-saving flower medicine on its wounds right after being injured. After using the minor injury healing skill, it quickly recovered the greater half. Greenie flapped its wings and stood up. Lu Wen looked at Greenie. She caressed its bright and clean tail feathers and asked Zhong, "Big brother Zhong, what is this big bird's name?" Lu Wen really liked this mighty-appearing young green feather eagle. This made her think of the big bird of prey in The Return of the Condor Heroes. Although they were 2 different animals, but she didn't know how much mightier the green feather eagle is than the one on TV. Zhong smiled. "It is named Greenie. Why is it called Greenie?" "I saw its tail feathers were green, so I decided to call it Greenie." "Big brother Zhong, you really have no standards for your names." "Haha, cough cough." Zhong laughed, and suddenly his brows wrinkled, coughing due to the wound in his right chest. "Big brother Zhong, why are your wounds still not good? Quick, go back and rest." Lu Wen looked at Zhong, and her face changed. She hastily walked to Zhong's side, deeply troubled. She remembered Zhong being pierced through and grabbed by the green feather eagle. Guang also walked over. Her big, beautiful eyes looked at Zhong with tenderness overflowing. Zhong looked at Guang. He reached out a hand and stroked her hair. He then returned to his room and rested. Zhong returned to presiding over Stone Horse Village. Qiang took 2 elite small combat units and an IFV and slaughtered his way to Chen Family Village. He rescued the survivors there and brought them all back. Stone Horse Village is a small town. The town didn't have any heavy manufacturing, yet it had several blacksmith shops. Zhong rescued 3 blacksmith survivors when he recaptured Stone Horse Village. Zhong made those blacksmiths take on apprentices, and they started manufacturing cold weapons like large knives, shields, and crossbows. Stone Horse Village held several thousands of people before his age. The small town held a large amount of foodstuffs and non-staple foods. Although Yu Zhong's pressure to find food was still there, it decreased a lot after finding the foodstuffs. After recovering a large amount of staple and non-staple foods, Yu Zhong increased the treatment and rewards for his incorporated personnel. The ordinary survivors also received a steamed bun in addition to 3 bowls of diluted gruel each day. Yu Zhong's policy is don't labor, don't eat. Providing relief food didn't let the survivors starve to death, but it also didn't let them eat until they were satisfied. There was also a small-scale coal power plant in the little town. A large amount of coal had been accumulated inside. They could provide power to the whole village for 2 months if they used it to maximum capacity. 100 men used the steel and cement materials in the village to build a crude city wall at the front of the village. The city wall didn't have the least bit of usefulness in modern warfare, but it was extremely useful for dealing with zombies. Not every man has the guts to go to the front line and kill zombies with Yu Zhong. The majority of those that didn't wish to go to the front lines and fight zombies helped build the city wall. Each person could eat to their full and receive a steamed bun as wages when they worked on building the wall. This type of wages already made the survivors who were so hungry that they didn't look human extremely satisfied. A large amount of men and women began to organize and fish in the Tulay River tributaries. They were able to obtain a large amount of freshwater fish each day. There were also some men and women who went to the base of the mountain behind the village and foraged for edible plants. Yu Zhong didn't kill the 2 drivers that tried to hit him. He used them as lab rats to test if the wild plants in the mountains were poisonous. After eating 24 various plants, the 2 drivers finally died from poison, but their sacrifice allowed them to create a diagram for tens of edible plants. This allowed Yu Zhong and his team members to eat fresh vegetables. Yu Zhong's injuries completely recovered under the constant treatment of Lu Wan after 2 days. An unexpected guest was brought before Yu Zhong by his team members during the time he was getting ready to go capture the military base. An extremely refined 30-year-plus-year-old middle-aged man wearing glasses reasonably looked at Yu Zhong and said, "You are Yu Zhong? I am Kong Tao of the Longhai City government. I have come here to represent the Longhai City government and negotiate with you." Chapter 128, H1. Chapter 128, H1. Kong Tao looked slightly haughty at Yu Zhong and boldly said, "The Longhai City government can give you amnesty for murdering policemen and a surprise attack of the base at that time. But you must comply with the following points. First, you must return the IFVs and give all types of weapons obtained through various channels to Longhai City government. Second, dissolve your illegal military and completely integrate into the army. Third, bring all of the survivors and goods and materials to Longhai City survivor base. So long as you do these 3 things, the Longhai City government will provide amnesty for your offenses. You may also retain your personal property, and you and your family members may live in the specialty region. You will be provided as a deputy cadre in the specialty region." Yu Zhong is only a bandit leader in Kong Tao's eyes. Furthermore, they surveyed the survivors who came in contact with Yu Zhong at Longhai City, and they inferred Yu Zhong had an idea to join Longhai City government. They decided to use this method to recruit him. Without expending a single soldier, they could disarm Yu Zhong and bring him under their command. Yu Zhong coldly looked at Kong Tao. A matchless spirit bubbled out from his body with mighty pressure. Kong Tao, pressured, was practically unable to breathe and slightly lowered his head. Yu Zhong directly gave Kong Tao a notice to leave. "Go back and tell your leaders. I cannot accept a single condition. If you want to grab me, then send people to come and grab me. Please return." Kong Tao's face changed, and he shouted, "Yu Zhong, do you know the nature of your current behavior? Behavior that opposes the government and society. You are an enemy of the Communist Party and the people. You are a bandit. If you insist, then you will ultimately go down in history as a disgrace." Yu Zhong looked at the political official Kong Tao acting like this a little perplexed. "Scram, Expel him. 2 personnel members grabbed Kong, Tao, according to Yu Zhong's command. Yu Zhong suddenly changed his idea and said, "Wait a moment. Lock him up. Send 2 people to guard him. Do not permit him to take 1 step outside the room." Kong Tao's face changed. He shouted while being dragged by the 2 men. "Yu Zhong, what are you thinking? Right now you are opposing the peoples." Qiang asked from the side, "What are you planning to do?" Yu Zhong said in a deep voice, "I'm afraid this situation can't be good. We must enter the field with them. We must obtain stronger power and then act. I will take people to capture the armory. Qiang, you make Xiao Ming lead people to watch over Long High City survivor base. Have them come back and report if they even disturb a blade of grass." Yu Zhong found 60 motorcycles in Stone Horse Village. The large majority of those motorcycles were given to the army and Qi Yang's small group, Lu Yan's armored unit, and a Guzi small group. Although Xiao Ming wasn't outstanding when they captured Stone Horse Village, but he is an extremely capable soldier. Qiang nodded, then turned and left. Over there is the military base I talked about. Xiaoyu pointed at a faraway military base and spoke to Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong looked towards the place Xiaoyu pointed. There was indeed a lonely military camp set up on the outskirts. Zombie after zombie wearing military clothes stood nearby, wandering around. Yu Zhong stared at the distant military camp, and he said to subordinates, "I will go first. You all stay here and await orders." Yu Zhong and White Bones strode towards the military camp. Yu Zhong broke open a bag of blood and sprinkled it on White Bones' body. White Bones rushed like an arrow towards the military camp filled with blood. It rushed into the middle of the group in a few flashes. Like entering unmanned territory, it beheaded those zombies wearing military clothes. The zombies of the whole camp started to circle around, attracted by the bloody body of White Bones. Yu Zhong strode behind White Bones. He held a Type 03 rifle and frequently took shots, headshotting zombie after zombie. Fighting in close combat uses up an extremely large amount of stamina. Yu Zhong must conserve his stamina when he faces tens or even hundreds of zombies and use a gun to fight. Furthermore, his enemies were not only zombies, but men as well. Because of this, he never stopped training his shooting skills. Those slow-moving zombies were the best target practice for Yu Zhong. His gun technique could continuously improve as long as he constantly used live ammunition. There were more and more zombies. White Bones beheaded zombies with his axe and retreated backwards at the same time. Those zombies couldn't stop an attack from White Bones, but the amount was too large. White Bones could be completely surrounded, unable to move if it became encircled. Zombie after zombie continuously fell to the ground with crisp gunshots. Zombie head after head was sent flying as soon as they entered within the attack range of White Bones. In a short moment, over 50 zombies were killed with their combined power. Xiaoyu watched Yu Zhong and White Bones easily hunt those zombies from far away. Her heart filled full of fearful thoughts. How severe! Suddenly, a green-colored S2 jumped high into the sky from the crowd of zombies, rushing towards Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong immediately raised a gun to the green S2 and continuously shot. The S2 set off a danger response as soon as Yu Zhong raised his gun to aim at it. It kicked a little and moved like the wind to the side, making Yu Zhong's bullets completely miss. The S2's speed was quick like a blast. In a few flashes, it dashed before Yu Zhong. It fiercely clawed towards Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong's eyes flashed a cold light. He slashed towards the S2 with a sword in his right hand. A cold light flickered, and the rushing S2's head tumbled to the ground. A large experience orb sunk into his body. Easily disposing of the S2, Yu Zhong's Type 03 rifle started taking out the heads of the ordinary zombies. At this level, using ordinary zombies to level up is difficult. It is better to use the zombie crowd for moving targets to increase his shooting ability. As Yu Zhong and White Bones were hunting the ordinary zombies, a red-colored zombie on top of a large building opened its mouth wide. A fireball boomed out towards Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong felt a dangerous sensation as soon as the red zombie opened its mouth. He immediately rolled away. The fireball exploded at his original location, creating a fist-sized pit into the ground. Yu Zhong stood up with his body covered in dust. He made irregular movement while looking at the large building at the same time. The data for the red zombie immediately entered into his mind. Level 30 Flame Infected H1 possesses the ability to shoot fireballs. Chapter 129, Crash Job. Chapter 129, Crash Job. Zombies posse's a long-distance attack branch. Yu Zhong's mind became hazy as he looked upon the flame zombie H1 on top of the large building. The S-type zombies were already too much trouble for people. Now, there are H-type zombies that can attack from long range, suddenly appearing. The future for mankind battling zombies became even more difficult. I must fully learn its firing rate. Yu Zhong raised his head and watched the H1 occupying the large building in the military camp. He longer moving irregularly and raised his gun at the camp entrance, fighting the ordinary zombies together with white bones. The flame-type H1 zombie honestly laid down on its stomach and watched Yu Zhong from the roof of the high building. It only had attack instinct, not the slightest bit of hidden conscience. This is the greatest weakness of the zombies. Yu Zhong and White Bones fought and moved backward at the same time. There were over 100 corpses on the street of the military camp after 15 minutes. Only the whole camp had over 800 zombies. Yu Zhong and White Bones killed so many zombies, but the amount of zombies didn't seem to lessen. The stamina of Yu Zhong and White Bones started to continuously drop. White Bones also has stamina restrictions. It can no longer continue fighting if its stamina is used up. Moreover, the zombie's stamina is never-ending and daunting. Yu Zhong felt a warning in his mind 15 minutes after the flame zombie shot the first fireball. He immediately used all of his strength to move to the side. The firing rate is 1 every 15 minutes. Not bad. Yu Zhong calmly analyzed the flame zombie's firing range and slightly relaxed a breath. If that flame zombie's firing rate was too frequent, then tens of flame zombies could form a terrifying small-sized artillery unit. After testing out the flame zombie shooting rate, Yu Zhong raised his rifle into the sky and gave the 3-shot attack signal. 2 IFVs, 3 Hummers, and a Humvee mounted with a heavy machine gun formed a motorcade along the road and traveled over from far away. Personnel from the rapidly approaching motorcade carried all types of guns and madly spread fire at the large amount of zombies that had been coerced to leave the camp. The 2 IFVs with the 2 Type 86-7 62mm machine guns and the mounted Type 67 heavy machine gun on the Humvee madly breathed flames. The interwoven fire created a terrifying bullet screen. The zombies enshrouded in the screen of bullets were totally torn apart. There were tens of L1s in the crowd of zombies. Those evolved L1 zombies couldn't stop the bullet screen, and they were torn apart one by one. Cease fire. Close combat unit approach. Yu Zhong gave the command after seeing a large slice of zombies being taken out by the bullets. It is hard to completely wipe out zombies relying only on bullets. After being baptized in the bullets, some zombies still didn't die. Their bodies ragged, the combat ability quickly descended, and they are unable to form a zombie crowd state. They are basically no match for the close combat unit wearing the snakeskin armor. After a battle cry, 10 close combat unit members charged into the crowd of zombies while holding imitation tank swords. They madly slashed at those zombies who had fallen to the ground and were attempting to climb back up. Those close combat unit members had killed a large amount of zombies. They had all leveled up to about level 7. They mainly leveled up power and stamina. Using the imitation tank swords, they cut through those zombies as easily as chopping leeks. A large amount of zombies fell in the hands of those 10 close combat unit members. Yu Zhong and White Bones rushed together into the depths of the military camp. The H1 is a target they must take out. The precious close combat unit could suffer casualties if the H1 fires another shot. Yu Zhong moved with all his strength. His speed surpassed the 100-meter dash champion before his age. He and White Bones stabbed into the depths of the military camp like a sharp sword. Those zombies blocking Yu Zhong's path were beheaded, completely unable to hinder him. White Bones extremely violently slashed its axe on the other side, sending the heads of the zombies blocking the road flying one by one. A large amount of zombie heads flew into the sky along the way, an extremely bloody sight. AL2 appeared before their eyes as soon as Yu Zhong and White Bones dashed into the large military building. A huge fist ruthlessly attacked towards Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong's body slightly shifted, drilling past the side of the L2. The L2's fist heavily exploded onto White Bones' body, sending it flying several meters away. Yu Zhong circled around the rear of the L2. He activated the skill Devil Flame. A devil flame rose from his right hand, and he slashed at the L2's large thigh. The scarlet-red devil flame turned the right thigh into ash as soon as Yu Zhong made contact, splitting it into two sections. The L2 lost its balance for a moment after losing the right leg and dropped towards the ground. Yu Zhong chopped at the back of the L2 with a sword, making sure the L2 dropped all the way to the ground. He seized the opportunity and used a foot to ruthlessly step on the L2's skull. The devil flame activated and burned the L2 into a crisp. Congratulations, you leveled up to level 27. You have attained 2 stat points. A large experience orb sunk into Yu Zhong as soon as the L2 died. He leveled up once again. Increased stamina and agility. Yu Zhong made his choice. Speed and stamina is the current direction of his evolution choice. Yu Zhong placed the drops of the L2 into his storage ring. He quickly rushed towards the roof. Yu Zhong finally rushed to the roof after killing 8 ordinary zombies and 3 L1s along the way. A lonely red body stood there on the roof. The H1 zombie's head was twice as big as a normal person's head. It had a small body with 4 bulky limbs. Sensing Yu Zhong's arrival, the H1's 4 limbs began to act, and it rushed towards Yu Zhong. The speed is somewhat faster than an ordinary person's. Yu Zhong calmly evaluated as he watched the H1 rush over. The H1 zoomed to Yu Zhong's side. I immediately opened its devouring mouth and bit towards Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong's speed had been leveled up several times. The H1 basically couldn't compare. His body slightly shifted and avoided the charge attack of the H1. He pressed onto the H1 without much difficulty and firmly stopped its assault. Only has a biting close combat attack. The assault power is only at the level of an ordinary adult. In other words, apart from being able to shoot extremely dangerous fireballs from long range, its close combat ability is weak. Yu Zhong quickly made an evaluation, and then he slashed at the head of the H1. With a flash of the sword, the H1 was easily beheaded by Yu Zhong. It was even weaker than the body of an S1. Chapter 130, Capturing the Military Base. Chapter 130, Capturing the Military Base. The H1's body fell to the ground. A large experience orb sunk into Yu Zhong's body. A skill book, a green treasure box, and 100 life coins dropped from its body. Yu Zhong immediately rushed downstairs after putting those things into the storage ring. The battle still hadn't finished, and he must return to the fight right away. Yu Zhong rushed downstairs. White Bones followed behind, and they quickly killed 20 zombies along the way as they rushed to the camp entrance. Yu Zhong saw the 10 close combat unit members working in groups of 2. They provided mutual support and deftly waved the imitation Tang swords, beheading zombie after zombie. Behind the close combat unit, 10 of Yu Zhong's expert marksmen aimed and shot at the zombies from far away. Zombie after zombie was headshot and dropped under their precision fire. The 2 IFVs and the Humvee brought up the rear without firing. Ammo is an extremely precious thing for Yu Zhong's power. He didn't have the ability to recover bullets. Before he can manufacture bullets, it is better to conserve artillery fire and ammo. Zhong wasn't willing to use the heavy ammunition unless they came across a zombie crowd. That would be a waste. The young bird Greenie also took part in the battle. It rushed into the zombie crowd. It cracked open zombie skulls with each peck. Then it pecked and gobbled up the zombies. It has an enormous immunity to the zombies carrying the infection. It even somewhat likes eating zombies. There were still 20 ordinary team members that used rifles to continuously fire into the mass of zombies. Zhong quickly cut towards the zombies blocking the road and combined with the close combat unit after joining the battle. They formed a mad beheading unit that cut apart the zombies blocking the road. The fierce battle continued for more than an hour. The large portion of zombies was finally cleared out by Zhong and the men he brought. Group after group filled into the buildings. They started to clear out the scattered zombies in the camp. Score. This time we scored. Zhong entered into the camp. He saw 10 Humvees mounted with Type 86-7, 62mm machine guns lined up. His heart immediately filled with joy. There were 2 IFVs and 2 machine gun vehicles mounted with dual 14, 5mm anti-aircraft machine guns parked there apart from the 10 Humvees. As soon as the armored vehicles entered Zhong's hand, his troop flexibility and in firepower both received an enormous increase. Liu Yan, who was in charge of acquisitions, rushed out of storehouse. He excitedly yelled to Zhong, Captain Yu! Captain Yu! This time we scored. We scored. Come quick. Zhong heard Liu Yan's words, and he zoomed over towards Liu Yan. He quickly entered that storehouse. Score! A huge score! Zhong saw the storehouse weapons and equipment as soon as he entered the storehouse, and he became endlessly excited. A Type 95 rifle with 5, 8mm rounds, mortars, multipurpose bayonets, grenade launchers, Type 95 machine guns with 5, 8mm rounds, Type 89 heavy machine guns with 12, 7mm rounds, 35mm Type 87 automatic grenade launchers, 2 dual-mounted 14, 5mm anti-aircraft machine guns, and Type 40 Type 8 rocket launchers. A large amount of standard PLA weapons were in the storehouse, causing the onlookers to be dazzled, pulling at their hearts. The equipment here was enough for Zhong's to arm a battalion. There was a large amount of ammunition, explosive artillery shells, grenades, hand grenades, and 9 red, arrow-guided anti-tank missiles. Zhong's army could replace their bird shotguns with cannons using this type of equipment. Their combat ability multiplied, transformed into a regular standing PLA army. Modern warfare weaponry is extremely important. With these war tools, Zhong doesn't have a trace of fear towards the Longhai City survivor-based military. Zhong was a little melancholy obtaining these weapons. He didn't have any specialized soldiers to operate this modern weaponry. Zhong placed the distractions behind him, and he strode out of the military camp. One step at a time, one step at a time. Zhong's personnel worked like a beehive, entering into the weapons storehouse and loading everything up on the semi-trucks for transport. Every team member's face was full of joy. They could become even stronger with weapons and ammunition. Weapons are a must when it comes to dealing with zombies or other people. Xiaoyu and her bodyguard Guang walked over to Zhong's side. Zhong looked at Xiaoyu and dully said, According to our agreement, from now on you are free. Miss Xiaoyu. Zhong is a person serious about promises. He couldn't eat his words since he promised Xiaoyu her freedom. Xiaoyu looked at Zhong and slowly said, Can I wait a short period of time in Stone Horse Village? Stone Horse Village continuously receives survivors under Zhong. They already slowly recovered their population. Zhong is also not harsh at all towards survivors. So long as they are willing to work, they can eat their fill. Crime rate in the village was also very low under the patrols of the team members. Once a crime was committed, offenders were sent to the hard labor camps and forced to build the wall. Xiaoyu and her bodyguard Gao also planned to stay here a short time. There wouldn't be a problem with safety so long as they stayed. Zhong looked at Xiaoyu and plainly said, You may, but you aren't a person in our system. You can only receive disaster relief rations. You must solve additional food problems yourself. Zhong wouldn't force Xiaoyu and Gao Ying to be a part of his system if they didn't want to be, but he couldn't give a large amount of food to these two idle people. The faces of Xiaoyu and Gao Ying changed. They didn't have much food. They were able to eat white rice, fish, and vegetables while they followed Zhong. Those two couldn't bear it if they had to eat that diluted disaster relief gruel. Xiaoyu gnashed her teeth and said to Zhong, "Could you give us a vehicle? Let's go to Longhai City Survivor Base on our own." Zhong pondered a moment and said, "You may. I will give you a vehicle after we return. I will let you all go to the Longhai City Survivor Base on your own." Full of the camp's equipment, the armored unit majestically headed towards Stone Horse Village. The whole Stone Horse Village stirred and boiled as soon as the armored vehicle unit returned. This armored vehicle united represented formidable power. It could easily tear apart 1,000 zombies. It also represented the ability to provide safety, making them even more relaxed. Zhong gave Xiaoyu, Gao Ying, and Kong Tao a jeep and let them leave Stone Horse Village after returning. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.